Alright, good night, y'all. Nobody says, like, good night as a greeting. But it is night. And so here we are, back again. We're booting up Pikmin 4. And so the goal today is we're gonna probably beat the boss in Arcadia. Well, we definitely are. We don't have that much left. And then we'll beat the Serene Shores. We'll go in, maybe beat that one as well? I don't know. We'll see. Because we have so many fucking things today. I've got 1, 2, 3 Nintendo stories. I guess 4 Nintendo stories, actually. I got 4 Nintendo stories tonight. That's a lot. I got a Ubisoft story, and then we have the Xbox Developer Direct, which I did not expect myself to have a lot to say on. And then I actually watched the thing, and I have like 3 pages of notes. It's like any other Nintendo Direct. I have a bunch of notes on it. So I guess I do have a lot to say. For WIBE, we've got 3 food things. Guess what? I'm still playing catch up for the month of January. So we got 3 of those. We got the Percy Jackson season finale. And then I have 2 books. SuperWorld 1, Part 1, and SuperWorld Part 2. Which I have been reading basically nonstop for the past week. And I blitzed through these books quick. And I may have something else. That's all I can think of at the moment. But that is more than enough content, man. That's happily. Sure, the Nintendo stories are kind of small, but there was just 4 of them. So that's just kind of how it happened. And yeah, so with that, we're booted into Pikmin. So let's just get back into that. We gotta... One of the things I remembered we forgot last time. Bombs. You need bomb rocks to beat this game. So we're gonna have to get bomb rocks at some point. Not yet. But we'll have to do that. I think we need them... Probably for Serene Shores, maybe Giant's Hearth. Oh, I don't remember. I also want to finish these Pup Drive. I know we started this last time, and I just kind of forgot. Or, you know, we started doing it, and I was like, okay, let's get all the essential ones now. We'll get the rest right now. You know what this does make me realize, though, is that because we'll have all these Mega Rushes, we'll have unlimited run with Ochi. That's like the end game ability for Ochi once you get all the upgrades. But because you only get that for 100%ing the game, you never really use it. Or at least I never have. So we might actually be able to use that one. Oh, that's good. I just got a normal can of Baja Blast. See, we don't actually need Pluck because we have the Pluckaphone. Like, I don't think we've plucked a single Pikmin this series. And that's it. That's everything. Wow. Why do we have extra points? I don't know. It's not important. Wait. Okay, that explains. I was like, why do we have extra points? No, there's our Infinite Pup Rush. That, again, is an end game ability. That's just not that useful because by that point you're in the end game. Alright, so with that, for gaming news, like I said earlier, we've got 4 Nintendo stories. We've got Donkey Kong got an update. A bunch of other games got smaller updates. Super Mario World got a trailer for its big update, its Switch 2 edition. And then Nintendo released a trailer for the Talking Flower. You know, that Alarmo-style product that they're selling later this year. And I thought we might as well talk about it. And for our non-Nintendo stories, we have a Ubisoft story that is not good, because Ubisoft is completely fucked. And then finally we have the Xbox Developer Direct, the first big Direct of the year. And I'm going to be honest, I think they delivered. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about it. But for me personally, yeah, no, I had a great time with it. But of course we'll get to that. I'll be honest, I don't remember what we were doing last time. Okay, we got a hot dog over there. Yeah, I don't remember what we were working on last time. I know we did a few of the dungeons. I'll figure it out. Okay, so with that, let's go to our first update, which is Donkey Kong Returns HD got a free update. Now, this is not a Switch 2 edition of the game, but it does have enhancements that if you're playing on Switch 2, the game will run better. However, as far as I'm aware, everything else still works on the default Switch. So for those who want to play the game on the default Switch, you can go do that with some of these new features. But there are some enhancements that are Switch 2 only. Which, you know, they've been doing that for other games. I want to say Pikmin here that we're playing right now. Its update, well, it wasn't like a Switch 2 edition. It made things run a little better, potentially. You know, it's not like what they did with, like, Animal Crossing. Or what they did with, or what they're doing with Super Mario Wonder. Like, it's not like a full edition, but it's minor stuff. So the big thing in the update is they added Dixie Kong. If you played Tropical Freeze the sequel, they added Dixie Kong and Cranky Kong as characters, and me personally, I think Dixie Kong is the best one. I think Dixie Kong plays the best. Out of all of the characters, I like companioning with her. So seeing her added to Donkey Kong Country Returns is actually really cool. Like, that's a really great addition that I'm glad they added to the game. It definitely, like, I don't want to say it needed it. It didn't. But now that we have it, I'm really happy we do. Because I think that's really cool. And I'm really glad we do have that. Oh, that's just a straight up dungeon. So, yeah, I think Dixie Kong is a fantastic addition. She works just like she does in Tropical Freeze. They did not add Cranky Kong. But if I'm being honest, I'm not too upset. Hey, look, there's a bomb rock. So yeah, I'm not too upset that she's not in, that they didn't add Cranky Kong. I don't really care for Cranky Kong. Not that he's, like, bad or anything. I just don't really use the character. But Dixie Kong is where it's at. That's really cool. Of course, some people wondered about, like, the cutscenes. Because there are cutscenes with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. How does Dixie fit into that? And she just doesn't. Instead, Diddy will, like, spawn in, do the cutscene, and then get yoinked back into heaven after the cutscene's over and replaced with Dixie Kong. It's kind of funny. Does this make me want to replay the game again? Because we played it on this show last year. Around this time last year, yeah, we played through both the original and, or, you know, through Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. Do I want to play it again? Not particularly. Mostly, I don't want to deal with the World 4 minecart levels, and I don't want to deal with the World 5 spider level. And I don't want to fight the final boss again. I do not like that final boss. Not that there's anything wrong with the boss, it's more just, you know, everything around it. So yeah, I don't think I'll be playing it again, but hey, that's a really cool addition, and maybe in a few years when I do decide to play it again, that'll be great. That'll be a great thing where it's like, oh yeah, now I can do that. Because I do need to 100% that game. That's something I, in theory, would like to do. I know Donkey Kong Country and Tropical Freeze are very difficult games. And to be fair, I've never really experienced that difficulty. But I'm curious, in, like, outside of, like, the default levels. But it would be interesting to go back and 100% it. So next thing they added is Turbo Attack. From what I understand, this is more of like a speedrun mode. Where, you know, you're basically racing through levels as quick as possible. And you're trying to reach the goal before a time limit. God, we lost so many right there. Now, this is not like an official speedrun mode. It's not like, oh, you know, you can play through the game. Because there are games that make speedrun modes. Where it's like, oh, you know, we put a timer on the screen. It cuts out all the cutscenes. It's specifically designed for speedrunners. I actually really like shit like that. And we know Nintendo knows what speedrunners are. And Nintendo games are some of the most popular... The two most popular speedrunning games of all time are both Nintendo games. And you would think, like, Nintendo would embrace that, but outside of a single, you know, NES Ultimate Championship Turbo Edition, or whatever the fuck that game was called, Nintendo doesn't even really talk about speedrunning. Which, I mean, they don't have to, but it'd be cool if they did. Like, when we talk about Mario Wonder here in a bit, if one of the new modes they had added was a speedrunning mode, I actually think that would be really cool. But Nintendo just has no interest. Another thing is, of course, there's Switch 2 improvements. They added Switch 2 enhanced visuals, so it improves the resolution, and the game is just a higher definition overall. I know this is something people really wanted, that when Returns HD was announced, a lot of people thought it was rather ugly. And they're not entirely wrong. They're not entirely wrong to say that. But it looks like this is going to fix that. Potentially, anyways. It looks like, yeah, no, the game looks a lot better. That whole, like, fur gate, or whatever the fuck people were calling it. No, the update fixes that. It also improves the load times. You know, the Switch 2 version loads a little bit faster. That's all, you know, you've got the power of the Switch 2. You might as well take advantage of it. Sure, why not? It added in game share support. So, you know, the game has multiplayer. But now you can do that with game share, which, okay, that makes sense. That's Nintendo's, even though I hate game share because of its stupid fucking borders, I like the idea of game share conceptually, and so the more games that get support, the more the better. I just fix the fucking borders, Nintendo. I don't know why they do that, if it's just to, like, disguise the lower resolutions or what. Like, I know there's a reason, I'm sure, at least I'd hope. But it's just, man, those borders are just bad. Like, playing, like, classic, like, NES and Super Nintendo games, those borders kind of suck. I think this is worse. Oh god, I'm having flashbacks of a Pikmin 2 level where we dig up that bamboo shoot and are immediately killed by a bomb. Luckily, this game's a lot nicer than that, but oh, you better believe I'm having those flashbacks. And then the final question I had was, in the Donkey Kong Country HD remake, there was a bug question mark that made it so that way when one player takes damage, the other player could also take damage. Like if you're doing in two-player mode, Like, you don't share invincibility frames, which I know that may sound weird, but if one player is riding another player, one hit deals 2 damage. And it can more or less ruin your run. And so, now this is not an issue in Tropical Freeze. This is only in the Returns HD. The Tropical Freeze remake did not have this problem. And from what I understand, they did fix this. That no, now the multiplayer does work how it was supposed to. This is not an issue anymore. Which is a good thing. That is something, you know, I would expect them to fix. Because it seems like it, again, the fact that it works right in Tropical Freeze makes me think that it might have just been like a bug or an oversight or something. But from what it sounds like, they did fix it. I have not confirmed that, but from what I saw, it looks like they did fix it. So this boss is actually easier with Rock Pikmin, because Rock Pikmin can't be crushed to death. This boss still sucks, though. I flummin' hate this boss. And yeah, that's the whole update. And overall, I would say that's a pretty solid update. I mean, it's not like a full-on DLC. It's a free update. But adding a whole new character in a free update is actually kind of nice. And it's a good character as well. Again, I prefer Dixie Kong over Diddy any day of the week. So I think this is a great addition. And I'm pretty sure it's because the game came out like a year ago. More or less, it came out a year ago. Hey, Yanni. But I think that makes sense. Overall. Oh god, this dungeon keeps going. We're gonna have to fight the Emperor before this, aren't we? Yeah, I think we do. I don't remember this dungeon that well. In the speedruns, we don't go to this one. But yeah, I think it's a good update. It's not going to get me to play Returns again anytime soon. Do I recommend people who didn't buy Returns HD, that with this free update, they should now buy Returns HD? No, I wouldn't go that far. If you ever find it on sale, which I know Nintendo famously doesn't do sales, that's technically not true. They will put games on sale every once in a while. So if you can ever find this on sale, it is definitely worth picking up. Especially if you have played it before, I don't know. If you've never played this before, oh gosh, yes. It's not as good as its sequel. Its sequel is better, but I still stand by Returns is a good game. So that's that. Now, so that news came on Tuesday. We then, the following day, got a bunch of more update information on other games. So on Wednesday, we got information that Mario Kart World is getting an update. Specifically, they're adding Team Battle to Knockout Tour. I did not know Team Battle did not exist in Knockout Tour. That actually really surprises me, but that does sound kind of fun. You know, playing with a team in Knockout Tour, and based on like where you get eliminated is how many points your team gets. So that way, even once you're eliminated, in theory, you still have people to root for, instead of, you know, just quitting out of the lobby. I actually think that's a good addition. Yeah, no, as an addition goes, I think adding multiplayer to Knockout Tour is a good one. I guess I'm happy that's there. We lost way more than we should have right there. So yeah, I'm happy with that addition. I have not tried it out yet, but hey, it exists. I'm sure, like, Chilled Chaos will make a good video on it or something. I don't know, get Smitty to play Mario Kart again. We know how much he hates it. The next game that got an update was Pokemon Legends ZA. The big thing, there's a bunch of different patch notes. The one I really cared about is if you've played Legends ZA, you have to collect these things called Terra Shards to unlock Mega Stones. You can take the Terra Shards and exchange them at Quasartico for new Mega Stones. It's a fine feature, and it's kind of easy to grind Mega Stones. However, there was a cap of 999, and it's really easy to hit that cap, and when you do, the game doesn't tell you. So you'll hit that 999 cap and just not know, and every Megastone you collect, Megastone shard, just goes to waste. It just gets deleted. So it's really nice that, yes, from what I can tell, they removed the Megastone cap. Admittedly, it's probably a new cap. I know it's at least over 1,200. I don't know what the new cap is, admittedly. But any change is a good change, in my opinion. Because the old limit was just too low. And you may think 1,000's pretty high. It's not. By the end of the game, you're collecting so many of these shards, and it just goes too quickly. Trying to look through Cerebi to see. Okay, a variety of small bugs were fixed. Update includes several online bugs. At berry stalls, you can buy multiple berries at once. That's actually a really nice change as well, because it can be really slow. The Mega Shard amount was increased from 999 to 9,999. That is such a nice change. Especially also in the post-game. Another thing you have to do is you have to collect a bunch of Mega Shards to unlock the new TMs. And like the cheapest TM is like 300 Mega Shards. It's expensive. So no, that is actually a really good change. Small bug fixes. Hyperspace Lumios fixes a move where Pokemon moves in a direction other than the target. That was a huge issue. I've struggled with that issue. That's another big change. Fixed an issue where shiny Mega Evolved Pokemon caught before getting Mega Dimensions won't explain the Mega Evolution. Fixed an issue where the image of unrelated scenes displayed during a mission. And finally, fixes an issue where side mission 88 can't be cleared in survey points. I don't know about that one. I know another thing that it doesn't mention here, I'm sure it's later on down, is there was actually a glitch where if you beat the DLC, it would stop the weather cycle. The weather cycle in the game would be locked to permanently sunny, and there would be no way to evolve Goodra. Unless you, for some reason, didn't do the rain side, because there's a rain side quest, and that was the only way to unfix it. From what I know, they did actually fix that as well. So the game is no longer stuck on no rain, which is nice. That's definitely a change we needed. So yeah, overall, all around a good patch for Pokemon. Nothing major, but good patch nevertheless. I have not played Legends. I'll be honest, I did not like the DLC. I know I've talked about it before. I did not care for the Pokemon DLC. And I just, ever since I beat it, I've had no desire to actually play Pokemon. It's just been like, oh, whatever. Like, I haven't even done, like, currently there's an event going on to get the Sceptile Stone. I haven't even done that event yet. I just can't be bothered. And then our final update was to Donkey Kong Bonanza, in which they added the language Polish. So if you want to play the game in Polish, you can now do that. There may have been other changes in the update. I think they fixed some of the times where it was like supposed to say banana, and for some reason it just didn't. So they fixed that. But I know the big change was just they added the Polish language. Again, not a major update by any means, but hey, they updated the game. Good for them. So that was Wednesday night. And the entire time all this was going on, the update I was waiting for was Splatoon. Because a week or two ago, Nintendo announced that, hey, the 11.0 update will be coming to Splatoon on the 28th. And so I figured, like, oh, they were finally going to tell us what's in that update. I was expecting it on Tuesday, didn't happen. Instead, we got Donkey Kong. I was expecting it on Wednesday, didn't happen. Instead, we got more Donkey Kong. And so I was like, okay, Thursday. It's finally going to happen on Thursday. Instead, on Thursday morning, the other two announcements were at night. On Thursday morning, we got a new trailer for Super Mario Wonder, plus Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, Meetup at Bellabel Park. Oh god, we gotta find two of these things. Maybe I should have bought the bomb rocks. I mean, we have 7. Oh, maybe I should have bought more. I thought about it, but I decided not to because we had enough. We should hopefully be fine. So Meetup at Bellabel Park is the Super Mario Wonder DLC. And I like Super Mario Wonder. It was one of my favorite games the year it came out. But honestly, I have had no interest in the DLC. Mainly because this is like the second or third time we've gotten Nintendo Switch 2 DLC that's just a fucking minigame collection. Listen, I understand Mario Party. It's fucking Mario Party. Sure, would I have much rather preferred more like boards for your board game video game? Yes. But giving us some new mini games, some new party mode, sure, whatever. Whatever. I didn't buy it, I don't plan on playing it, but I understand that. But why is Super Mario Wonder getting a minigame collection? I don't need Super Mario Wonder minigame collection. But that's what they're doing anyways. At least there's some single-player content. Probably about as much as like Kirby had, which Kirby only gave us like 12 levels. But hey, it's at least something. So I'm not expecting much from this, but I'll take any... The multiplayer stuff does nothing for me. But I'll take any single-player stuff we do get. So the big new thing with Meetup at Bellabel Park is you have Attraction Plaza. This is where all the multiplayer attractions are. It's divided into 2 areas. The local multiplayer plaza and the game room plaza. Game room? I think it's game room? God, I hope I'm getting that right. The game room... Okay, so let's start with the local multiplayer. So this is for people on the same system. So it's one copy of the game, up to 4 players playing on the same system. So this is not online, this is nothing like... This is just local multiplayer on the same system. It has 17 new attractions. There are versus attractions, there are co-op attractions. The one thing it does, though, is this does support Game Share. So if you do want to play this with Game Share, you will be able to do that. Which, at least we have that. So what is so we don't get a full list of the 17 attractions. They actually mostly glance over it. Like some of the ones we have seen before, like the one where you're like ninja jumping up an obstacle course. There's one where you're like passing a bomb back and forth. There's one where one player is like placing blocks and you're working along the blocks. But there are some new ones. There's one where you're like holding on to like a giant ball and you're like bouncing on the ball to go like through the stage. Okay, that seems kind of interesting. I think the roller skate one was a different one. It was the online one. But yeah, so there's a lot of ones we've seen before, but they showed off some new ones as well. It all looks fine, but just not for me. I don't care about the multiplayer stuff in this. Same thing with Game Room. So Game Room is the one that supports either local wireless or online. And so that means everyone can be on a separate system. They don't all have to be in the same room or in near proximity of each other. It does support up to either local wireless supports 8 players, and online wireless supports 12 players. 12 players is, you know, that's a fair chunk for a game that only supports 4. That's given us a lot more. So the modes in this one, there's one where you're like riding on a rocket. There's a bouncing ball one. There's one where you're in a roller skate. You're in like a Karibo's roller skate, which is kind of neat. There's one where you're riding on like flowers and racing up the stage. It all, again, it looks fine. It's just not for me. That's not what I want from my Mario game. I would have much rather preferred an entire new world. That's what interests me. Give me some proper, like, world DLC. I don't know why Nintendo doesn't want to do that. Like, in all of their Mario games that have done DLC, they've never added, like, another world. I mean, yeah, sometimes they do add, like, the challenge packs add new stuff, but it's never, like, a brand new world. And that's always kind of disappointing, because that's what I'd actually be interested in. Now, of course, we do have some single-player stuff. It is not single-player exclusive. You can also play this with 4 players if you want, but it's specifically designed, like, the other stuff is specifically designed with multiplayer in mind, whereas this can be played single-player or multiplayer. The first one we see is Toad Brigade Training Camp. So this is located at a new location called Camp Central. And these are training courses, which seem to be remixed courses from the base game. So they took a stage from the base game and added some sort of new special objective to it. Like, oh, in this one you've got to kill all the enemies. And this one you've got to reach the goal before the time limit. And this one you've got to, you know, collect a certain, like, power-up or something. They're just pre-existing stages, but now with special conditions. And I think some of that is fine. They do seem... basically, you complete these stages, you rise the ranks, presumably they'll get harder as you keep going. So far, it seems like there's going to be over 100 of these. If at a certain point, they show, like, an unlock thing... And the unlock thing seemingly has 137 missions. So it looks like we're going to get 137 missions. Which, if that's true, that's actually really nice. 137 missions. I mean, again, they're all remixed stages from levels that already exist in the game. But still, 137 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a moderate amount of content. How many levels are in Super Mario Wonder? There's 152 playable courses, 69 main courses, 10 special world levels, and then there's a bunch of like badges, break stages, arenas. Okay, so yeah, basically it seems like everything is basically every level is going to get some sort of remix. You know, some levels might get 2 remixes, which I think does also make sense. The other single-player thing is track down the Koopalings. So this seems to be a new side story, where you go through the different worlds of the base game, and you have to take on the Koopalings. That they've stolen these, like, Bellabels. And there's 7 of them, 7 Koopalings. You gotta track them all down. you fight the Koopalings through like a stage, and the stage seems to be like a boss fight, but it also incorporates like the wonder effects. Now, I've said in the past, I am not a big Koopalings fan. I personally never really have been. I know some people would say like, oh, if this game had added the Koopalings, the boss fights would have been better. I personally disagreed, because I think the Koopalings are kind of boring. But this first footage we've seen of the Koopalings, where we see Wendy turning into like a giant Cheep Cheep, who's like racing through portals, I actually think, yes, that is fun, that's creative, that's inventive. So we only saw one of these fights. But I don't think they're going to be anything too complicated. I don't think there's going to be that many of them, if I'm being honest. But I do think they look interesting. The one little glimpse we see of the Wendy fight is, I think, very fascinating. So far, yeah, I guess I can say I'm kind of interested. Again, I don't expect this to be like a huge mode. It kind of reminds me, you know how the Kirby mode only added like 12 stages? I expect this to be something like that, where it's only going to add like 7 or 8 stages. It's not going to be that much. But hey, I'll take what I can get. Another thing they're adding is Rosalina. We already knew this. This actually, in the original trailer when they revealed this DLC, they actually, in like the bottom corner, there was a picture of Rosalina. So we kind of already knew this. That was clearly just something they left in on accident. But I'm glad Rosalina is here. We get to see some of her animations. You know, she's got the Lumas with her. She plays the same as every other playable character. You know, this isn't like Super Mario World, or yeah, Super Mario 3D World, where all the characters play differently. They all play the same. But I think that's cool. I do really like that. I stand by. From here on out, if you're going to have a Mario game with multiple characters, Peach, Daisy, and Rosalina need to be in every one. I'd even take, you know, if they wanted to add Pauline into the mainline series as, you know, the 4th female playable character, I would be totally down for that. I like Pauline enough that if it's like, okay, our male characters are Mario, Luigi, and the 2 Toads, and our female characters are Peach, Daisy, Rosalina, and Pauline, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Admittedly, yes, you also have Yoshi, you've also got Toadette. I get that, and technically with Toadette, we now have 4 female playable characters. But still, I think Rosalina is a good addition. I think part of the reason I'm sure there was always the idea of, like, we should add Rosalina, but I'd bet money the only reason they did it is because of the Galaxy movie. I'd bet money that's the only reason they did it, is so that way they could get that tie-in with the Galaxy, that synergy. But Rosalina is not the only new character, because they also added Co-Star Luma. So Co-Star Luma is the orange Luma from Super Mario Galaxy 2, you know, the second playable character. And how it works is it flies around the course. It's basically, you know how games have like little brother mode, where it's like, specifically Mario Wonder, where it's like, hey, you know, you want your little brother to play Super Mario Wonder with you, but they're not exactly good at video games, and they don't entirely know what they're doing, so you have them play as Yoshi. And Yoshi, you know, can flutter jump, he doesn't take damage. Sure, he can't use the power-ups, but he can do everything else. It's little brother mode. Co-Star Luma is another little brother mode, but instead of little brother, I would say it's a mom mode. You know, your mom probably doesn't know how to play not my mom. She's played plenty of video games, including Wonder. But your mom probably doesn't know how to play video games. But she knows how to use a mouse on a computer. At least, hopefully she knows how to use a mouse on a computer. Because this Co-Star Luma can be controlled by a mouse, like it's a cursor. And so I think of, yeah, it's a mom mode. You give the Joy-Con as a mouse to your mom, and now they can play with you and all your siblings, but they don't actually really have to, like, play the game, you know, they can't take damage, they can't get hurt, it's a more casual thing. Yeah, it's a mom mode. And I have no problem with that. Again, little brother mode is fine. The weird thing is just how much dedication Nintendo is giving to these, you know, little brother mom assist modes. Because guess what? The next thing is, they're adding an assist mode to Super Mario Wonder. So Super Mario Wonder already kind of Super Mario Wonder doesn't have an assist mode. Instead, it has assist characters. Characters that can't take damage, that jump higher, that, you know, they have their own restrictions, but they make the game easier. And those are the 4 colors of Yoshi and Nabbit. But in the new update, they're adding an assist mode that basically is no matter which character you play as, if you turn on assist mode, they will not take damage from enemies. Okay, you know what? I always talk about accessibility. I'm a big fan of accessibility. When we talk about Forza Horizon 6 in a little bit, I'm going to praise that game's accessibility because I think they do a fantastic job. But I will say it's very weird that we're just randomly getting this accessibility mode here. The one change I do like is that it's not just, oh, no, they take no damage. They also can't, like, fall in pits and die. You know, falling in pits is a dangerous thing in a Mario game. But no, in this one, if you fall in a pit, you know, kind of like how Mario Odyssey's assist mode, if you fell in a pit, you just got bubbled to safety. In this one, if you fall in a pit, you just get flowered to safety. So either way, you know, you don't really have to worry about it. But I think that's a good change. I like that an assist mode is here. But I would much rather prefer if they just added, like, an actual assist settings. Like, give me some actual, like, assist mode settings, Nintendo. Give me, like, colorblind mode. Give me stabilization, you know, reduce particle effects. Just things that actual assist modes have. Because for as much as Nintendo loves to be the family-friendly video game company, when it comes to assist modes, they are one of the worst. In the past decade, I can only think of 2 Nintendo games that actually have assist modes. No, not assist. I can only think of 2 Nintendo games that actually have, you know, settings for accessibility. And those 2 games are Metroid Dread, which has a guidance accessibility setting, which barely counts, but still technically counts. And then Kirby Air Riders, which came out like 3 months ago. That's it. Those are the only 2 Nintendo games that have accessibility settings. Give me some actual Nintendo accessibility. Give me some actual accessibility settings, Nintendo. You claim to be the gaming company for everybody, and yet you're one of the most restrictive. But no, instead they're just giving us another assist mode, which is better than nothing, but it's still not what it should be. So, the final few things is at the very end of the trailer, they show what looks like a new power-up. There's a new flower, it's like a flower pot mushroom that turns Mario into a flower, and he can, like, throw flowers. This is at the very end of the trailer. We see it for about a second. So we don't really have much to go on, but hey, a new power-up is always cool. I wonder if the flowers he shoots up are going to be like platforms. I think that would be you know, because we have the bubbles in the game, and the bubbles kind of work like platforms. And then finally we've got some amiibo. So we're getting 3 amiibo for Super Mario Wonder. We're getting an Elephant Mario who's like halfway sticking out of a pipe. We're getting a Poplin in Prince Florian. So, you know, the little caterpillar guy. And then finally, we're getting Captain Toad in the Talking Flower. I think that one's cute. I think the Captain Toad one's probably the cutest. The Poplin's not bad. Elephant Mario's kind of whatever. I get why it exists, though. So yeah, we're getting 3 amiibo. We have no idea what they do. They probably do nothing. Like, oh, you tap them, and they give you, like, a power-up or something. I don't know. You gotta start thinking... Amiibos are not they're figures that interact with the game, but that's not their selling point anymore. You buy amiibos the same way you buy, like, a good Smile figure. They're just a hell of a lot cheaper, but they're still actually pretty decent quality. Price per quality, they're not bad. The only exception are, like, the Kirby Air Riders ones. Those being $50, that sucks. Admittedly, these new ones aren't great either. They're $25, but I blame Donald Trump for that. I bet pre-tariffs, these things were probably $16, and now because of Donald Trump, I don't know, I could also see them being like 20, but if I had to guess, I would say they were probably like $15, and then Donald Trump got his grubby little hands on them, and now they're 25. But I think they're all good amiibos. And then finally, of course, the release date. It is March 26th. That is a week before the movie comes out. I know we talked when the original Mario movie came out, it was actually kind of surprising that Nintendo didn't have a Mario game to coincide with the release of the Mario movie. Of course, you know, a few months later, Mario Wonder was announced and released. So I guess it wasn't that big of an issue. And now here we are, just a few years later. New Mario Galaxy movie that comes out a week after this DLC. So, you know, people go see the new Mario Galaxy movie and then can immediately be like, oh, well, I want to play a Mario game. Hey, look, Mario Wonder just got an update on Switch 2. Guess I'll go play that. Yeah, it's synergy. It makes sense. It was only a matter of time until Nintendo did something like this. So I get it. My one complication here is the price. So far, all of the Nintendo Switch upgrade passes have ranged anyways from $5 for the Animal Crossing pass up to, I want to say $20 was the Kirby pass. I'd have to double check that. But I want to say the Kirby pass was $20. This one is also $20. And that kind of sucks. That's very expensive. The reason why they're selling it for $20 is because you're paying $10 for the upgrade pass, and then you're paying $10 for the DLC. That's why it's so expensive. $10 for an upgrade pass, $10 for DLC. But that still kind of sucks. Was the Kirby upgrade pass $20? Yeah, the Kirby upgrade pass was $20. Okay. I wanted to double check, because I want to say the Zelda passes were each $10. But I had to double check that, obviously. But no, I mean, 137 missions for $20. Sure, would I have loved some new levels? Obviously, yes. But it's not like this is terrible or anything. I don't know, it could be worse. But no, I'm interested in this DLC. Upgrade pass, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not, like, over the moon for it. You know, it's not like I'm beating down the bush to go get this thing. It'll happen when it happens. Hopefully there's enough single-player stuff. But the multiplayer does nothing for me. If it was just the multiplayer stuff, I wouldn't even waste my time on it. But it's the Koopaling stuff and the Toad stuff. where I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll give it a chance. So I'm a little hopeful, but not like super hopeful. And I honestly think this is the only between this and tennis, I think these are the only Mario things we're getting this year. Like, yeah, you know, we might have another, like Mario Kart World might get DLC, but I don't expect a new Mario game this year. I just don't. I know someone made a thing. It might have been IGN, where they were like, "Oh, this year." I think we're going to get a new 3D Mario because Nintendo doesn't have anything else to show. There's no Gen 10 Pokemon. There's no new Zelda game. There's no whatever their other thing they said was. And I was like, are you sure about that? Because while we're not getting a new 3D Zelda, I think it is totally possible we get a new 2D Zelda. And while we're not getting a new... And the Pokemon thing, I think is completely wrong. I think it is totally possible that we get Pokemon Gen 10 this year. In fact, I fully expect us to get Pokemon Gen 10. I'm pretty sure that a little more than by this time this next month, we will know about Pokemon Gen 10. That's coming pretty soon. At least if I had to guess. Okay, I'm bad at fighting these things. So yeah, that's the overview trailer for Mario Wonder. Yeah. I mean, I'll probably check it out, but I'm not, like, overly excited for it or anything. I don't think of it as anything revolutionary. The other trailer we got that morning was for the Talking Flower. So previously, back in, I want to say the September Nintendo Direct, maybe the Mario 40th Anniversary Direct, at some point, Nintendo revealed that the Talking Flower from Super Mario Wonder, they were going to be making into an actual, like... I'm going to say action figure, for lack of a better thing. Like a Tickle Me Elmo, like a talking doll. But it was going to be this little flower with a button on it, and when you press the button, it talked. And at the time, I was like, oh, okay, so welcome Alarmo 2. Not that I think it's like a bad thing, it's just kind of weird and random. Which is a very Nintendo move. Nintendo loves doing weird and random shit. So them making a talking flower is super weird and super random. Totally a total WND, a weird Nintendo decision, right up their alley. And so this week, along with the new Mario Wonder reveal, we got to see this new talking flower. And yeah, it's basically what I expected. It's, you know, from the screen to the real world, you place it down, it seems to be battery powered, and it'll basically twice an hour, it'll just randomly chime up and make a few sounds. It'll say something. Presumably something from the game, or, you know, just random little sayings. I don't know, it's one of those things where it seems charming up until the point where it becomes annoying. But I could see it becoming annoying. Of course, you can press the button on it to make it talk. After multiple presses, it'll share a special message. What they mean by that is it'll just say, like, I love you. You know, it does the Tickle Me Elmo thing. I love you. Stop touching Elmo there. You know, stuff like that. Don't press the flower's G-spot. Of course, you can hold the button on the flower and it'll stay quiet for a little bit. I do not know if that, like, lasts until you press the button again, or if it, like, that puts it into, like, rest mode for, like, 6 hours. They don't exactly say. I can see either option being a possibility. But yeah, you can set that. It has a clock in it. So that way you could tell the talking flower, like, oh, you know, tonight, like, I have a bedtime at, like, let's just say, like, 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, the flower will say, like, good night, sweet dreams. And let's say you tend to wake up, like, your alarm goes off at, like, 7 a.m. When the alarm goes off, the talking flower will say, good morning, rise and shine. Now, if you've kept up with the Alarmo stuff, Alarmo is an alarm clock. But if you heard the things, some people, not myself, but others, have actually found that the Alarmo drifts, that it actually loses track of time. How hard is it in our current year to make a clock? Because I have bought multiple clocks that just drift, that over time they just lose track of time. How hard is it to make a fucking clock? Like, we've been doing that for hundreds of years. I mean, at its most basic, it's just a fucking vibrating quartz crystal. How is it that we're still fucking up alarm clocks in this current age? I know some of that is like AliExpress, like made to order bullshit, but still. So I'm a little worried about this clock, like, completely falling off and getting the wrong time. I could totally see that happening. Other things it can do... Oh, they point out when it'll, like, you can set it to, like, tell the time. So when it hits, like, 9 o'clock, it'll say, it's 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. But it can also tell the time wrong. So it'll be like, oh, wait, no, actually, it's 8 o'clock. That is such a Nintendo move. Making an alarm clock that tells the time wrong. Not because it's supposed to be an alarm clock, but because that's supposed to make it more endearing. That's the exact type of shit Nintendo does. And I kind of like that. Like, I don't go to the talking flower for an alarm clock. I do it because it's a stupid talking flower. And the fact that it'll try to tell the time and it'll get it wrong, that just makes it more endearing, honestly. I honestly think getting the time wrong makes it more charming. So, yeah, that's a thing. It also has a temperature sensor in it. So if it's, like, really cold, it'll be like, it's really cold in here. When it's really hot, it'll be like, oh, it's burning up. Oh, I'm dying. Please, I'm dying. Probably. It'll also tell you, of course, when its batteries are low. I know, I saw somebody disappointed that it wasn't USB chargeable. I'd actually prefer it on batteries. In a day where, yes, I understand we're trying to cut down on, like, battery waste and whatnot. But there are certain things that I would rather have on a battery, and I think the stupid talking flower is one of them. When, like, everything else is USB-C. Yeah, I think I would rather have this talking flower be battery powered. Maybe that's just me, but... There's a music mode, so you can, like, hit it and it'll play music. I wonder how it detects the different modes. Part of me wonders if there's, like, an app that you hook this thing up to. Like, do you hook this thing up to one of the, like, 5 Nintendo apps, and that allows you to, like, program it? Or is it just, like, different button presses? Like, how do you set the time on this thing? Can you hook this thing up to Wi-Fi? Is Nintendo going to be updating it? I wouldn't think so. The price makes me think that it's not going to either. We'll talk about that in a second, obviously. But yeah, I do have several questions about, like, how this thing actually works. But yeah, music mode, and of course it'll play music and sound effects from the game. That's about what I would expect. When it comes to support, they support 11 different languages. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And then the release date is March 12th. So that's, you know, if the movie comes out April 2nd, the new update for the Bellabel part comes out the 26th. This is a little earlier than that. This is a little earlier in the month. Pre-orders are available right now on my Nintendo store. You'll also be able to get it at Nintendo New York and Nintendo San Francisco, as well as they will be selling it at select retailers. What are those select retailers? I know for sure Best Buy is selling it. I saw it on, I think I saw Wario64 tweet out that it's for sale at Best Buy. I don't know about anywhere else, but yeah, I know for sure it's Best Buy. Spoiler alert, I did buy this, but I bought it through Nintendo. Because what about the price? Now, when they first revealed this thing, and I started watching this trailer, I was like, it's going to be 50 to 60 bucks. I was sure that it was basically going to cost the same price as a Nintendo Switch game. No, this thing's only 35 bucks. I know 35 bucks like isn't the cheapest price, but again, the Nintendo Alarmo was like $100 dues. The Switch 2 is $450. I would expect this stupid talking flower to, again, 50, 60 bucks. No, 35? That's... yeah, it's sure, it's still expensive, but it's not that expensive. Again, there are Kirby amiibos that are more expensive than that. The Kirby Air Rider amiibos are $50. This is cheaper than that. This is cheaper. I think the Mario Galaxy amiibos are also like 35 bucks. I don't know. I'm just gonna boot up Best Buy real quick. Best Buy, amiibo. Yeah, the Super Mario Galaxy amiibo are $40, whereas the talking flower is $35. This talking flower is cheaper than a figure, which is why I say we kind of have to stop thinking of amiibo as like interactable figures, but more as like cheaper good smile things. Sure, it's not that level of quality, but for the price and the scale, it's not bad. Yeah, both the Rosalina and the Mario amiibo. The Samus amiibo, where she's riding on the motorcycle, is cheaper. Wow. Wow. So, I don't know. Somehow, this thing is either really cheaply put together, or Nintendo, I don't know. I don't know what they did for this. For it having, like, a clock and a temperature sensor in it, Nintendo is selling this thing for cheaper than you would expect them to. Maybe... Okay, do we think the talking flower is going to show up in the Mario movie? Like, Rosalina showing up in Mario Wonder makes sense. It's like a tie-in thing. But do we think the opposite is true? Do we think that now because they're pushing this talking flower, it's like, hey, you take your kids to see the Mario movie, they see the talking flower, and now they can go buy one. I need to go get more water. I think we'll beat the Serene Shores because we're almost done. Or not Serene, Blossoming Arcadia. And then we'll go to Serene Shores. And we'll go get, and I'll go get some water in between them. Yeah, because we're at 82%. It'll just take us another day. I know we have one more guy to fight. One more Dandori challenge. That's the only other thing I can think of. I think we've done all the caves. Yeah, we're missing 10 treasures. That's not much. Oh, gosh. Oh. But yeah, so I'm gonna pick... like I said, I've already pre-ordered one of these stupid talking flowers. I'm sure we will talk about it when it gets closer to the release date. But it is, yeah, kind of wild that this thing even exists at all. But hey, that's Nintendo for you. Yeah, you know what that did make me think of? We know, right, Rosalina's the big thing in the Galaxy movie. I'm really, are we going to get some like are we going to get like some Luma plushes? Because I know we got, for the original Mario movie, we got like Mario action figures. I would love some Luma, like make like a Luma Squishmallow. I would buy that up in a fucking heartbeat. Because I really do like Luma. Yeah, I hope they do like a Luma Squishmallow. That'd be really cool. I don't expect it to be like an actual tie-in with Squishmallows. Oh god, you know what else they announced that I don't have it on here because it's a nothing story, at least right now. So about a year ago, Nintendo did Lego Mario Kart, where sure there were some like the interactable figure ones, but there was like a big build that was Mario sitting in a cart, and it was like okay, you know, this is actually a really cool Mario Kart build. I can't remember what specifically it's called, but they actually did like a really good Mario Kart build, and they did not officially revealed it, but they showed a little bit of it, that they're going to be doing a Luigi, that in the same way they did Mario on like the whatever it's called, on the standard, they did Mario Kart, Mario in the standard cart. And the same way they did that, they announced that they're going to be doing a Luigi set of the same style. So it's going to be Luigi sitting in a cart. We just saw like the side of Luigi, and we saw like a wheel on the cart. What's the cart? I can already tell you what cart he's going to be in. Mario Kart 8, all carts. Luigi is going to be in, if I can find a list of all the carts. Come on. He's going to be in the Mach 8. I'm going to call it... I think you can kind of see it if you look at the... There's like a 3-second trailer. But if you look at that trailer, I'm going to guess it's Mario in the standard cart, and it's going to be Luigi in the Mach 8. But hey, I'm actually totally down for that. Because even though the Mario Kart set was like $160, it's actually a really nice set. I have it as a display piece. It's a really nice looking display piece. So the idea of them doing a Luigi one is kind of cool. And I can put it right next to the Mario one. I've got a blue shell as well. Yeah. A lot better than some of those smaller Mario, like the Mario Kart with the LED Mario. A lot better than those. That's for sure. Alright. So we got Ubisoft, and then I think we'll start talking about Xbox, but we'll probably pause to go get water, and then I'll come back and finish it. Again, I expect today's show to go for like 3 hours. If not more. We're already like an hour in. Oh god, and then I gotta get up early tomorrow morning. Stupid early Nintendo Directs. Stupid early Nintendo Directs on a Sunday. Oh, that's bad. Okay, we only lost like 2. Alright, so let's talk about Ubisoft. So, this week, this happened earlier in the week, but I bunched all the Nintendo stories together. Earlier in the week, it was reported during a media call. So, you know, it wasn't like an investors meeting, it was a media call, which is different. But Ubisoft said that, hey, guess what? We are restructuring the company. We're fully reworking the studio from the ground up. We have canceled 6 games, delayed 7 games, and are closing 2 entire studios. Fuck, man. I want to say immediately after this, like in the following day, their stock prices dropped by like 35%. Something like that, allegedly. It's not looking good for Ubisoft. Like, I remember a while ago, Ubisoft was like in talks to like sell themselves. Like, they wanted somebody like a Microsoft or a Sony to buy them. And then I know somebody, I want to say like Tencent, tried to buy Ubisoft, but instead they got like outside support to prevent that. but it kind of looks like Ubisoft is fucked and that they're gonna get bought regardless. It's not looking good for Ubisoft. So, while we do not know which of the 6 games canceled, we do not know what those 6 games specifically are. The only one we know for sure is Prince of Persia. A while ago, Ubisoft had announced that Prince of Persia remake. When I say a while ago, I mean 6 years ago. 6 fucking years ago, Ubisoft announced they were remaking Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. One of the most beloved Ubisoft games. I know Yahtzee Croshaw is not exactly the person we listen to for stuff like this, but I remember him saying Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is like one of the best games of all time. I've never played Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, so when they announced a remake, I was actually kind of looking forward to it. And then we got the first trailer for it, and everyone's big complaint was that it looked ugly. And Ubisoft was like, you know what? You're right. It does look kind of ugly. So we're gonna delay it, and we're gonna fix that. And then about a year ago, Ubisoft came out and was like, oh yeah, the remake's making good progress. We're gonna have it out probably next year. You know, we got updates from the studio that things were going good. Yeah, I guess things were not going good, because the remake has officially been canceled. And that kind of fucking sucks. I mean, I guess just go play the original PS2 version, but still, that kind of fucking sucks. Just all around a terrible scenario to be in. The fact that we can't even remake a PS2 game just shows how fucked Ubisoft is as a studio. But that's where we're at. Ah, fuck. Snagrit. So that's the first big thing. From there, they announced that they were delaying 7 games. What are those delayed 7 games? We have no idea. Oh, you know what? Okay, so 6 canceled games. We don't know it right now. I would put money that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is one of those canceled games. We have not had an update on that game since, probably 2018? Michel Ancel, the guy making it, left the studio because he was one of those abusers. That game is canceled. The moment Michel Ancel left Ubisoft, we knew that game was canceled, but it's for sure canceled now. With all these restructurings, with all these studio closings, it is 100% canceled. I'm just gonna call that. Yeah, they didn't say anything, but we all know it's true. But yeah, the delayed 7 games, we don't know what these 7s are. I bet one of them is an Assassin's Creed. There has been a rumor that they're remaking Black Flag, the one good Assassin's Creed after 2. And yeah, I can believe that. I can believe they're remaking. I like Black Flag. I do. It is one of the better ones. So I totally believe that. And yeah, them delaying it doesn't surprise me. But I guarantee you, whatever the follow-up to Shadows was gonna be, that has now been delayed as well. If they were doing a new Star Wars thing, anything else Ubisoft is working on has probably been delayed. I don't know. I don't know how well Outlaws did. I know some people liked Outlaws. I know some people hated Outlaws. I never played it. I heard the Switch 2 version's actually pretty decent. Or how it runs is pretty decent, even if it is a game key card. Another game that I wouldn't be surprised, if there was a new Ubisoft sports game, you know, be that Riders Republic, or God, what else does Ubisoft even make? Does Ubisoft doesn't do Siege, do they? What does Ubisoft do? The Division? Who does the Division? Maybe the Division is made by Massive and published by Ubisoft. Allegedly, there was a Division 3 in the works. I would not at all be surprised if that got delayed. I think Rainbow Six Siege is also Ubisoft. Yep, Ubisoft Montreal. I would not at all be surprised if something Siege related. Same thing with Splinter Cell. You know, people have wanted a new Splinter Cell for so long now. I would not at all be surprised if something Splinter Cell related got delayed or canceled. That would in no way surprise me. That very much seems like something that would have happened. Oh, fuck. You know what I just remembered? We've got to do nighttime missions. Oh, God. Maybe we'll do those first. Or at least we'll do 2 of them. Or do I just save those for next time? Maybe we'll save them for next time. I don't know. I don't know. Fuck. But yeah, seven games delayed. And then finally, they closed 2 studios because the entire company is being restructured. They're reforming the company, consolidating everything, and then breaking off into 5 different teams. And this isn't like a new thing. Like, this isn't just something that, like, today they were like, let's restructure the company. No, this has been on works in the background for like a year now. They're only just announcing it today. Which, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So, the Prince of Persia remake has potentially been canceled for longer than this, and we only just found out about it. I mean, knowing Ubisoft, it is also totally possible that the developers of the game only found out at the same time as everybody else. Because that does happen a lot nowadays, sadly. Yeah, it's really sad, but it happens more than you'd think. So, is this the death of Ubisoft? I mean, maybe? I wouldn't see why it isn't the death of Ubisoft. I mean, you don't just... canceling 6 games, delaying 7, isn't something you just easily recover from. Your stock price kind of exploding isn't something you easily recover from. So while I'm not going to say they're, like, completely fucked or anything... Oh shit, I thought you were dead. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, well, this isn't like, oh, they're completely fucked. This is not a good sign. This is the last thing you want. So yeah, not looking good on Ubisoft. But that's to kind of be expected. They're Ubisoft. They're a bunch of fuckwits. I can't remember who made a video, or when I say video, I mean TikTok, that was blaming people who didn't pick up Prince of Persia for the cancellation of the new Prince of Persia, for, you know, the remake. Don't blame us. I picked up the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I defended that game. That was a good game. Don't blame me for that. That's the only Ubisoft game I've bought in like 10 years. Sure, did I only get it for like 20 bucks? Yeah, but I still did pick it up. It's not my fault that Ubisoft put it at 20 bucks like 2 weeks after release. That's a them problem. If they didn't want me doing that, then they wouldn't have done that. It's actually a really decent game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. If you ever... It's a Metroidvania, sure, but it's like a good Metroidvania. And its photo thing is like super interesting. Like, it's one of those features where it's like, yeah, that's such a good feature. I could see more Metroidvanias implementing it. So yeah, Ubisoft, maybe it's dead, maybe it's not. time will tell, but so far, time is not looking good for Ubisoft. And they fucking deserve it. They really do deserve it. Like, sure, when it comes to accessibility, Ubisoft is one of the better companies. Somehow. Despite their frat bro-y attitude, somehow Ubisoft is actually decent at accessibility. But that still doesn't excuse their myriad of other issues. Of which there are many. I'm just glad, I'm just glad David S. Soliani got out when he did. And now he's making Bradley the Badger. And I'm very interested to see where that goes. So I guess that takes us to Xbox. So on Wednesday, Thursday, at some point this week, Xbox did a developer direct. Their 4th ever developer direct, which actually really surprises me, the fact that they've only done 4 of these. But yeah, now developer directs are not like Nintendo directs. They're not like big game showcases. They're instead smaller shows that focus on only a handful of select games. So, you know, whereas Nintendo directs will have like 30 games in them, developer directs from Xbox will only have like 4 or 5, but they instead spend more time on each of those games. And honestly, every developer direct I've seen has not actually been that bad. Admittedly, I don't really remember the first one, but the second one wasn't actually... I think that was the one that went into like Indiana Jones and everything. That one wasn't that bad. And then I also don't really remember the third one. Like, I remember it being announced, but I don't really remember that one. But yeah, so when this developer direct, it was announced like 2 weeks ago. And, you know, because these actually happened at like a reasonable hour, I was at work when this one happened. So I was like, I'll get around to it. And then I pushed it off all week. Because, you know, it's an Xbox showcase. Yes, I do technically own an Xbox, but I almost never use it. Like, the last game I played on Xbox was Starfield. And, while I am more positive on Starfield than other people, it's still fucking Starfield. So I was like, whatever, you know, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. And after Animal Crossing this morning, I was like, okay, it's like 10 a.m. Fuck it, I guess I'll get around to it. So originally my plan was to have it on in the background while I played some video games. I was going to play like some Splatoon or something and just have the Nintendo Direct in the back, or the Xbox Direct in the background. And I did that for the first like 15 minutes and then was like, you know what? I'm actually really invested in this. I don't know what it is, but this is actually kind of working for me. And I actually shut off Splatoon and just watched the thing. So, right off the bat, I guess good job, Xbox, for, like, enticing me enough to, like, actually want to watch your show and not just, like, have it on in the background while I, you know, multitask. So, good job, Xbox. Of course, I'll give my overall thoughts on the show at the end, but it's positive. I'll tell you that right off the bat. So the show started with Forza Horizon 6. So this game is set in Tokyo. You know, we're going to Japan. Of course, it's more than just Tokyo, but you know, Tokyo's the big one. We're in Japan. They talked about the campaign mode to start off, that the big campaign is called the Drifting Festival. That you're a tourist who's come to Japan to partake in this festival. You'll compete in like tournaments, these qualifier matches, and as you play through the game, you'll slowly rise up the ranks and earn like different colored wristbands. And the different wristbands correlate to like your rank. So you'll move up at the end, like once you like level up enough times, you know, in order to get your next expand, you'll have to complete like a qualifier event, which are like these big spectacle showcases, which, you know, that sounds kind of interesting. That, like, you know, it's what allegedly the Forza series is known for. I should say, I've never played a Forza game. I do own Forza Horizon 5. I actually picked it up a few years ago for like, I want to say I picked it up for like 10, 20 bucks. Really cheap. And I've just never played it. I actually was really interested to play it after Mario Kart World, because I would love to see how that game stacks up to Mario Kart World, but I just never got around to it. But yeah, you'll do the campaign mode. You'll eventually earn your golden wristband, which gives you access to Legends Island. And then once you get there, you know, there's a bunch of neat events and everything. Of course, you have all of Japan to explore. There's rural areas, there's urban areas, there's modern areas, there's traditional areas, trying to give you a feel of it all. And if I'm going to be honest, a racing game set in Japan just sounds like a good idea. As someone who likes Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, I get the appeal. You know, I totally understand where that appeal comes from. Because they talked about, like, Japan's unique car culture. They specifically brought in this woman who's, like, a big consultant, you know, lived in Tokyo, lived in Los Angeles or San Francisco. And so they're consulting on the game. They tried to capture the unique soul of Japan throughout the game's experience. They talked about Tokyo specifically, how Tokyo is the largest urban environment they have ever created. And it is 5 times bigger than like anything they've done in any of the previous Forza games. Which, there's like a scene of them like racing around Tokyo. And yeah, it looks great. It really does. Like they're racing around like Shibuya. And it's like, yeah, that looks awesome. So I'm totally you know, I like the idea of the rural stuff, but I also do like the, you know, the Tokyo stuff. Of course, there are local changes, local events. You know, they've researched tons of Japanese culture, and they've tried to work that into the game. The Japanese music, art. There are mascots, you know, in Japan. Every city has like a mascot. So you can go around and you can collect like these mascot stamps. That's cute. When it comes to cars, over 540 cars will be in the game at launch. That's a lot of cars. As you explore the open world, there's these aftermarket cars that you can like buy. So you'll be like driving around and you'll see some like cool car parked in somebody's like garage or like on their like driveway, and you can like go up and be like, hey, I want to buy that, and they'll actually like sell it to you. That's kind of neat. All right, so I know we're working on all this stuff. I need to pee. I need to go get some water. So I'm going to go do that. We'll be back in like a minute. And we'll finish all this. All right, I'll be back. All right, we're back. Oof. I knocked over my cup and oh god, it was a whole thing. But with that, I guess let's head to the serene shores. What were we talking about? Forza, okay, 450 or 540 cars. Aftermarket cars. Oh, so they talked about, okay, next they talked about like sound effects and how the team went to Japan and they just recorded field sounds. That then, you know, as you drive across the game, you'll hear their actual like recordings of field sounds that just make it sound more authentic, more natural. They talked about, right, how they were doing the soundtrack and they were bringing in Japanese artists so that like on the car radio, you'll hear Japanese artists. There's a whole thing with like a house where you can like get a house and a garage, and they talked earlier about how, like the garage is like number 78 because it's like lucky numbers in Japan. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But they talked about this whole thing where you could buy like an estate. So you buy like this estate out in the middle of nowheres, and it's just like this empty field that slowly you can build up into like a whole compound with garages and text tracks, and you can decorate it, you know, basically make like a compound. And yeah, you know, customization is always important in stuff like these. They talked about accessibility features. Again, Xbox, and specifically the Forza series, is actually really good at accessibility. Like, they know what they're doing, and they're good at it. So, of course, like, the last story for Forza Horizon 5 was that they added sign language to the game. Which, I know some people would be like, well, why add sign language to the game? Can't people just read the subtitles? And the explanation I got at the time was that the difference between, like, reading text and reading sign language is emotion. Like, there's that classic, like, Key and Peele sketch about, like, how emotion doesn't come through as text. So while one person's sending a message that's like, yeah, let's just meet up anytime, the other person reads it as, like, super hostile. It's the same thing here. Like, yeah, you can just read something through text, but using sign language in the game gives that emotion. And I'd never really thought about that, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I think that's great that they're bringing all that back. They're adding like a radar to the game that like helps you while you're racing. They're adding an auto drive feature, which I know some people don't like stuff like that for some reason. I actually, like, as someone who plays a lot of Mario Kart, I actually like Mario Kart's auto drive, or it's called auto accelerate, because that way you don't have to hold down the button the entire time. And that gives you the freedom to focus more on things like braking and drifting. It just, you know, it frees up one finger for you to use on other things. It makes sense. It makes sense if you play it. At least for me, I've said that. And then the other thing is they're adding in fully customizable contrast modes. So, you know, for people who want that high contrast mode in a game, you will have full access to that. It'll be fully customizable to whatever you need, which that's great. You know, giving us that customization is really important. I don't know. I know people really like Forza 4 or Forza 5's accessibility stuff. So them building on it is, of course, a good thing. I need to sneeze. They talked about how in the open world, they've added car meetups. So you can go to like a car meetup and you'll be able to see other people's cars. You'll be able to buy cars from these car meetups. That's cool. Presumably it's other players. It might also be NPCs, but it seems like it's also like other players. They talked about, you know, new creation and customization features, specifically for, like, maps. So, like, in, I guess, Forza 5, you could, like, create your own, like, maps and your own structures to, like, drive around. And they've improved those. You know, they looked at fan feedback and were like, okay, here's the things people want. But on top of that, they also added multiplayer customization. So now you and, like, if you want to, like, make a map, you and a friend could work together to make a map. That's great. I know people really like that stuff. So yeah, that was the last thing. We got a release date. May 19th, 2026. So just a few months away. It'll be on Xbox, Game Pass Day 1, all that. And then it is also coming to PlayStation. So for people who want that PlayStation version, it'll be out on PlayStation later this year. They did not give a specific date. They just said later this year. And yeah, based on everything else that happens in the showcase, I do fully believe that. That does make sense. And then finally, they ended off with a little tease, Gundam. They're going to be doing something with Gundam. We don't know entirely what, but you see like a giant Gundam foot, and that sounds awesome. Like, no matter what they do, even if it's just like Gundam statues, that still sounds awesome. And yeah, this is Forza Horizon is, especially after Mario Kart World, it's one of those games I am interested in, but I've never actually played, and maybe I should get around to it. I'm definitely thinking about it, I'll say that much. But yeah, I've never actually played a Forza game. But definitely, there were I'll put it like this. There were a lot of things I saw in this trailer where I was like, God, I really wish Mario Kart did some of this. Like, there are things that I would just love to see in Mario Kart World. That, like, I know they're going for different things, but I feel like Nintendo would learn a lot by taking some influence from this. But that's just clearly not what they want to do. Oh, shit. So that was Forza. I think it looks great. Even if I never play it, I still think Forza looks fantastic. How did he only get... I only just looked at his score. How did he only get 13? Wow. So next up is Beast of Reincarnation. So this is the new game by Game Freak. You know, this is Game Freak's first time breaking away from Nintendo in a while. Well, okay, there was Pocket Card Jockey. Pocket Card Jockey was originally a 3DS game that got ported to Apple Arcade before eventually being ported to Switch. It's actually a really good game. If you've never played Pocket Card Jockey, I'd actually very much recommend it. It's not Balatro, but it's actually a pretty decent game. I would totally recommend it. But yeah, so Game Freak is doing their new game, and it's not Xbox exclusive, but definitely Xbox has some sort of like they got like the marketing rights or something, because it was revealed at an Xbox showcase, and now we're seeing it again here at this Xbox Developer Direct. So yeah, Xbox definitely has some sort of role in it. And so this came from Game Freak under the new initiative they've started called Gear Project, which is basically just the developers at Game Freak trying to make games that aren't Pokemon. Because they did have because they mentioned Pokemon like 5 or 6 times during the showcase, some of which I actually think is very relevant and we will talk about. But they want to make sure like people know that, hey, they make games other than Pokemon. You know, they made Harmo Knight, they made Drill Dozer, they made Pocket Card Jockey. They made that one game that I actually really fucking hate. That nobody talks about because it was bad. And more people should talk about it because it was bad. It had Toby Fox music though. Like Toby Fox did the music and the music was fantastic. But outside of that, the game fucking sucked. What was it called? It was called... What the heck is Okay, I've never heard of Pandoland. It wasn't... It was called Little Town Hero. That was it. Game Freak in 2019 made a game called Little Town Hero. I guess it's on PS4 and Xbox One. I did not remember that at all. But that game sucked. Genuinely, do not check out that game. That game is a bad game. And I feel like I'm the only person who remembers it. But that's because it was so bad. But yeah, so this new Beast of Reincarnation, you're in post-apocalyptic Japan. As we found out later in the thing, the game takes place in the year 4026. So it's 2,000 years in the future. The developers described this game as a one-person, one-dog action RPG. So is this game like a Souls-like? I'm not entirely sure. It definitely has Souls-like elements, but it also definitely has like RPG elements that like where it's like kind of like a hybrid, you know, half RPG, half like turn-based, specifically when it comes to like the dog. You know, not too different from like our dog Ochi here. There's like a moment where when we see the dog, like how the dog works, it's it does like action commands. You know, I've been playing Claire Expedition 33. It's like that. It does like the action command thing that people love. But yeah, basically the developers talked about how when designing the game, they wanted to make something with a new battle system from Pokemon. That even though Pokemon's exploring real-time combat with the Legends EA game, they wanted to try something different. And so Beast of Reincarnation isn't, well, not their excuse, it's their attempt to do something different. Which is a good thing. That is ultimately a good thing. I mean, people complain that all Pokemon... Shit. People complain that all Pokemon games are the same. And they're more or less correct. So Game Freak wanting to do something new is a good thing. It does, however, at one point they did talk about how tonally they were trying for this game to be the opposite of Pokemon. That Game Freak is very much self-aware that, hey, they're the Pokemon developers. Oh, shit. Shit. That sucks. At least we have the purple onion. If we didn't have the purple onion, we'd be fucked. Yeah, Game Freak is very much aware that they're the Pokemon developers. So when developing this game, they were like, okay, well, we're trying to do like the opposite of Pokemon. You know, Pokemon is very much like a loving and caring world, where it's you and your Pokemon partner going off on like a fun adventure. And sure, do you fight God and mobsters and whatnot? Of course you do. But it's still very lighthearted at the end of the day. This is not. This is going for a darker theme, but it's still about a protagonist and their partner. So they're keeping the same like central idea, but tonally trying to do something different. And honestly, I kind of like that. You know, it's playing what you know, but trying to do it from a new angle. I'm fine with that. They talked about how they were trying to capture this feeling of like warmth and trust, but also loneliness. That your dog, the hero's name is Emma, and the dog's name is Ko. And so like Emma and Ko will learn to grow and trust each other. Yeah, they grow and learn to trust each other. But you know, they're in a dark and scary world that wants to, you know, beat their face in. They talk about how there's this evil blight that has swept few human civilization. You've got all these terrible monsters called Malefacs that are like combinations of like monsters with animals, the blight, the plants. It's basically this bridge between humans, or plants, animals, and nature. Like the design, so you'll see like a deer creature, but it's covered in like trees, like plants and flowers. but it is still, like, it's got, like, this blight. Like, it's got this evil source in it. Emma, of course, being the protagonist, she has the ability to, like, seal the blight. That's what makes her special. And I guess Ko works the same as well. He's like a dog that also has the same, if not a similar ability. And you're going around trying to stop there's the Malefax, who are, again, these plant-beast hybrids. And then you have the Golems, which were once humans that put their souls into robots. But after 2,000 years, their souls have, like, started to decay. But they're still, like, masters of combat and whatnot. So it's like I said, it's like a hybrid. So you've got, like, action commands that you do with Ko. And then you're real-time, like, running around action RPG style fighting other enemies. So they're trying to do, like, a mix of things. Huh, running into them doesn't actually get them on our side. Shit. Let's just throw them. There's a skill tree, because how they've designed the game is they want you to be like, oh, with Ko, you use an ability that makes the enemy blind, and then with Emma, you'd use an ability that does double damage to blind enemies. So you're trying to, like, get, you know, the RPG style, like, turn-based character to do one thing that then the human character can react to. There's a massive skill tree, and, you know, presumably you can't do everything, so you gotta build your skills based around, like, how your play style. And, of course, different people will do different play styles and do different synergies. They were going for, like, they described it as beautiful yet brutal. It kind of, you know, again, I don't know how much of a Dark Souls influence this takes, but you know what it does remind me a lot of? Nier Automata. That's probably a closer comparison I would make, especially with the whole, like, hey, this is 2,000 years, you know, into the future. It definitely gives off some Nier Automata vibes, which I think is a good thing. You know, people like Nier Automata. Admittedly, I've never played the game, but I know plenty of people do. Do I own Nier Automata? I must. I'm sure at some point I've bought Nier Automata. And of course, this game is coming to Xbox, it's coming to PC, and it is also coming to PlayStation. We don't know if it's all at the same time, or if, you know, the PlayStation thing will be later on, but it's coming to all three. It is a Game Pass game, so it will be on Game Pass day one. And then we did not get a release date, but they said summer of this year. So yeah, overall, again, it depends on how it reviews. If it reviews well, maybe I'll check it out. But Beast of Reincarnation is definitely on my radar. I see some people praising this as like, oh, this is everything Game Freak could do if they weren't attached to the Pokemon Company and Nintendo. And, like, I'm not gonna go that far, but I see the argument. I want this game to be good. I want this to be successful, and I'd love to see Game Freak take inspiration from this and apply it to their other work. Because, like, graphically, I do not think this is, like, the most realistic looking game. They're not going for a realistic style, but they are going for a style, and it does not look bad by any means. So yeah, Beast of Reincarnation does not look bad at all. The next up, so before the showcase had started, Xbox had announced there were going to be at least 3 games. Forza, Beast of Reincarnation, and Fable. But of course, being an Xbox showcase, and just being a game showcase in general, we knew there was going to be at least one other thing. So before they ended with Fable, we got our one other thing. That being a new game from Double Fine, called Kiln. So, if you don't know Double Fine, They're a studio started by Tim Schafer, who used to work for LucasArts, you know, the Star Wars people. And back in the day, LucasArts used to make a lot of RPG, or not point-and-click adventure games. And these are beloved games, you know, Day of the Tentacle, Grim Fandango, third example here. But yeah, people loved these old, you know, adventure games. And so eventually Tim Schafer broke away from LucasArts and started making his own stuff. And he founded Double Fine, and over the years they've done a bunch of things. Their most recent critical acclaim was Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 reviewed really well. People really liked that game. I never played it. I only ever played the original Psychonauts. I always said I would get around to the second one, and then I just never did. But they announced their... So, last year in, like, October and November, they released a game called Keeper. I heard it was okay. I know some people really liked it. I know some people didn't like it. So, it was complicated. You know, it was divisive. But now they announced another game. So, other side tangent. You know how Aggro Crab made Peak? Where Aggro Crab and Landfall Games teamed up together to do a game jam. And out of that game jam came the game Peak, which is, you know, this massively popular game that everybody, myself included, really enjoys. Well, Double Fine does something similar. They call them Amnesia Fortnights, game not related. But it's basically a thing where over the course of 2 weeks, a fortnight, the developers of Double Fine will prototype a new game. And if the prototype is good, they will make that into a new game. This is something they've been doing for years now. They made Costume Quest, they made Iron Brigade, they made Stacking, and they made Keeper, all based on these Amnesia Fortnights. And this new game, Kiln, also came from the Amnesia Fortnight. So it's their game jam. So basically this game is based around the idea of encouraging you to create with other people and then destroy things. So it is an online multiplayer pottery party brawler. Online multiplayer pottery party brawler. That's a mouthful. But basically, how the game works is you create your own pottery character. So you'll decide, you know, their size. There's like a little spirit that inhabits their body that gives them arms and legs. And they have like their own little animated personalities. So you can make like a bowl, you can make a vase, you can make a pot, you can make a bucket. You have the choice of what kind of character you want to design. And then you do a 4-on-4 combat party game mode called Quench. And what this game mode is you're in like this arena and you go and there's like these jars that you break to spill water. You collect the water and then your goal is to take the water into the enemy's base where they have a kiln, and your goal is to snuff it out, to smother it with water and get it to, you know, run out of fire and break it. So it's a multiplayer party game. And yeah, right, quenching your thirst, quenching the fire with water. Name makes sense. Of course, along the way, you can fight each other. You can break each other's vases or pots or bowls or whatever you want to call it. You know, whatever you make, because you can make different things. Because there's this whole pottery crafting system where you like, you know, like a pottery wheel where you'll like sculpt your pot. The game will kind of know what you're looking for as you can make different shapes, different types of pots that can, you know, hold different amounts of water. Or you can add things like spouts and handles, which will also change how they play. And from there, different pots have like different movesets. So like every pot can like run, jump, attack, roll, do all the standard stuff. And basically they all can get water, or at least they all should be able to get water. But different pot shapes have different special attacks. So they show like a big bucket that has like a popcorn attack, where it gets filled with popcorn. They show like a narrow vase that can turn into a sword. There's one that can turn into like a megaphone. There's a bowl that shoots pies out of it. There's like one of the bowls turns into like a nest that houses chickens in it. So based on the shape of your pot, you can have like a different special effect. I think there was like another bowl that had like ice cream in it, like an ice cream sundae. So, you know, your shape depends on how you play. But of course, it's your shape, you know, you made it. Different shapes change like play styles. So, you know, if you're like a big like bucket that holds a lot of water, then your goal is to just get the water across. If you're like a small bowl, then like certain maps have like little like secret tunnels that you can only go into if you're small. So in theory, you can make like a small bowl that goes into the tunnel and then just like gets a little bit of water at a time, but death by 1,000 cuts. There are like tall vases that are more like glass cannons. There are defensive bowls that are harder, defensive pots. You know, there are different play styles based on what you make. There's different maps. So they showed like an Egyptian map. They showed a Greek map. And again, these things have like the Greek map has like a dance floor on it. Dionysus's dance floor. They also showed like there are certain things that you can do to like affect the map. So like you could place like a sponge on a map that kind of like blocks off a pathway. It kind of reminds me of like the lanes in something like League of Legends. I don't know. I've never played League of Legends, but I'm kind of assuming that's what it's like, where you like imagine if you could like block out a lane and how much that would like change things. There is a multiplayer lobby called the Wedge, where you could go in and show off your pots and whatnot. Of course, for playing the game, you unlock like an in-game currency. I'm going to assume there are going to be no microtransactions. I really hope there are no microtransactions. But, you know, by playing the game, you unlock this in-game currency, and you can use that to get spouts, lids, handles, different glazes. So, like, you can change the color, and you can get stickers to put on your pots. And yeah, I'll be honest, I am super interested in this game. Because one of the things I love about Splatoon is that for anyone who has played Splatoon, you might know that in that game, you do not have to be a good fighter to be good at that game. Because part of the value of Splatoon is that, like, sure, you're not a good fighter, but as long as you can paint the arena, you're still contributing to the team effort. And I kind of feel like you could have the same thing here. Like, oh, you don't have to be a good fighter, but as long as you make like a big pot that can carry a lot of water and you play around your team, you'll still do a good job supporting the team. Or if you play like a small little sneaky pot that doesn't exactly get into combat, but can like sneak through all the secret tunnels, and again, death by 1,000 cuts with water, that could also be useful. There's also like a team attack, the Super Splash, where if all of your team members make it to the enemy's base with water, you can deal like massive damage. It seems like it wasn't like an instant win, but it was still pretty strong. It might have only been 3 team members, actually. Not all 4. But I do genuinely think this game looks very interesting. I will say I am also very worried, because this game, depending on how they do it, this could also be another one of those multiplayer games that people play for 2 weeks and then never touch again. You know, I'm thinking, I don't want to say High Guard, but High Guard might end up being that. But I'm thinking more of like Foam Stars or Knockout, whatever. Ninjala, I think, was another one. You know, these multiplayer games where it's like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be this cool, fun thing. And people play it for like 2 weeks. And then they just go back to Fortnite or CSGO or, in my case, Splatoon. Like, why would I play Foam Stars when I could just play Splatoon and that's a better game? But so far, everything I've seen from this actually looks very interesting. I hope this game is cheap. Like, I know there's part of me that says they should release it for free and just do microtransactions, but I kind of don't want that. I really do think that if they made it like $20, or even do like peak math. Like, honestly, if they made it like $8, they'd get more out of it. Like, peak math works. $8, that's only $5. Yeah, I'd buy a new multiplayer game for $5. Sure, peak math. But I am genuinely interested in this. I like Double Fine. Admittedly, when I hear Double Fine multiplayer game, that Double Fine is a single-player studio. That's what they do. That's what they're good at. But Peak surprised me, and this very much is giving Peak vibes. Of just this wacky little multiplayer thing, lot of variety in it. I hope they go in on like the custom, you know how like Kirby Air Riders has like the marketplace where you can see other people's like custom machines. I hope this game does something similar where there's like a marketplace where you can see other people's like custom pots. Ah shit, we gotta do that earlier. I want there to be something like that in this game. Where, you know, I can make a pot and I can share it with other people who can use the in-game currency. That, again, not microtransaction, to then buy my thing. That's what I want. But we'll see. The game comes out spring 2026. It is a little worrisome that we don't have... Again, we're like a month away from spring. Little more than that. Maybe closer to 2 months. Still, spring is right around the corner. It is a little worrisome we don't have a release date, but I'm not too vexed over it or anything. It's coming to Xbox, it's coming to PC, it's coming to PlayStation, so it's going to be on everything. They also said that they will be that they do plan on doing a year of updates, so we'll get more customization, more activities, more game, you know, they'll add new game modes. Again, this feels like this year's Peak. I just hope it gets, you know, the love and support that Peak got. Because, yes, Peak was, you know, dumb multiplayer game. But it also did get a lot of love and support. Not just from the creators, you know, Aggro Crab and Landfall. But it also got a lot of support from the players. Who kept, you know, playing it the entire time. And I hope it's the same thing here. That people just keep playing it. Yeah. Also, they announced that they will be doing a closed beta sometime soon, specifically for Double Fine Action Insiders. I have no idea. I'm assuming that's like their like membership program or something like that. You know, that's their like PlayStation Stars or whatever. I don't know. Closed beta sounds good. I am 100% interested in this game. There's something about the vibe and the energy. Yes, does it remind me of like a Splatoon or a Peak? You know, does it give me that big Nintendo energy? Definitely. But that's not a bad thing. That's actually a great thing. Because in the world where all shooters are kind of the same, you know, like that's the big thing with High Guard. Is like, oh, High Guard's like this hero shooter where you're taking a castle. But it still looks like just a hero shooter. This looks different. This is trying to do something different. Which is, again, what I give credit for Splatoon on. Yeah, this... Kiln would be huge in Japan. If they port this game to Japan, get this thing on the Switch 2, this game would be massive in Japan. Mark my fucking words. Out of all the games in this showcase, this is the one I hope comes to Switch. You know, we know it's coming to PlayStation, we know it's coming to PC. Bring this game to Switch 2. I guarantee you it would do better. Because this is more up Switch and Switches. This is more towards like Switch audience. It's also PC's audience. But yeah, no, it's Double Fine. You know, this is, for a multiplayer Double Fine game, this is what I'd want it to be. So yeah, I'm totally into Kiln. Totally appeals to me. I'm almost out of water again. God, I've gone through that quick. Alright, so our last game from Xbox is Fable. Now, this is not being done by the team run by Peter Molyneux that did the original Fable games. So for people who are expecting OG Fable, this is not OG Fable team. You know, this is not... Peter Molyneux is doing a whole different game right now, which I want to say comes out in April. I don't know. I trust Peter Molyneux as far as I could throw him. Because it's Peter fucking Molyneux. Like, come on. No. This new Fable game is being done by Playground Games, who is the same studio that's doing Forza. That basically, you know, the Playground Games is known for their open world games. So this is their first attempt at doing that with a story game. You know, instead of being another racer, they're breaking off into a new genre, that being RPGs. It's a new, you know, the studio's grown a lot over the years. They created a new team just to work on this game. And I've been very hesitant about this game. I think this showed great here. I do have many concerns. You know, I feel like a lot of games that promise stuff like this, many a times it has blown up in their faces in the past. So I do have some concerns. But overall, I am interested in this. So Fable is... This new game is asking the question, what does it mean to be a hero? And so this is an open world game. You start off as a child. Like other Fable games, you're a child. I'm not even going to worry about that. You start off as a child, and, you know, you see your powers first emerge. You're the first hero in your village in, like, a generation. But then some plague goes through town that turns everyone, even your grandma, into stone. So you're going to have to figure out something about that. From there, the game goes fully open world. So you're in an open world environment, go anywhere, do anything, see anything. It kind of, you know, that makes me think of Fallout 3, because Fallout 3 is kind of the same, where it's like you start off as a child, then you can go anywhere, see anything, do anything, even if it's running into death claws. Oh, fuck! I was just trying to stay ahead of the game, man. So they talked about, like, all the different places you can go. So there's, like, rolling hills. There's mushroom forests. There are, like, giant vegetables. You know, classic, like, giant pumpkin. There's the Royal Capital, which has been in other Fable games. And there's a Heroes Guild, and you can, like, uncover the mysteries of the Heroes Guild. There's Bloodstone City, which is ruled over by, like, these two warring gangs. But there's also the Cult of Shadows. And you can figure out what, like, their deal is. Of course, your hero can use magic. They talked about character customization. Because, you know, so far the only character we had seen is the girl. And, of course, you know, all the sexists came out. And we're like, oh, look at this girl. I don't want to play as a girl in my video games. Yes, character customization is a thing. But for all the marketing, they're using a girl character. And more on them for that. But they also talked about, right, for character customization, you can pick your skills, pick your abilities, pick your weapons, pick your magic. Different, you know, everyone will play this game a little bit differently. We got some to see combat. I actually think combat looks very nice. We see like the camera's kind of zoomed out, but that gives more weight to combat. At least that's what it felt like to me. You have light and heavy attacks. You have tons of different weapons, you know, swords, double daggers. You have this big hammer that has like a lot of weight to it. That at least visually it looks nice. Like it looks like it feels nice. Of course, there's a bow and arrow for long range. There's like it looks like there was a crossbow as well. And of course, there's magic. You can use magic to devastate your enemies. Oh shit. One of the more interesting magics, which might have been a thing in other Fable games, I honestly don't remember. But at one point, you see the character cast magic, turn somebody into a chicken, and then just punt that chicken across the town. You know, kick the baby style. That's fun. That's fun. There's a bunch of classic returning Fable enemies. You know, the goblins that everybody loves, I guess. I don't know. Do people actually... Here's the thing. I know people like Fable, but does anybody actually love Fable? I just don't like Peter Molyneux. I think that's my big thing. Like, part of the reason I'm so open to a Fable reboot is because the one Fable game I played, I didn't really care for. And I don't trust Peter Molyneux. So them giving it off to a new team doing new stuff, I have no issue with, because it's kind of needed. But clearly there was something people liked about that first game. Speaking of that, right, they talked about what makes Fable special is not like all the big RPG stuff, but the little things. The normal, everyday life stuff that just makes the world feel alive. And they're trying to preserve all that in this game. So of course you can mess around with the villagers and the townsfolk. You can buy a house. You can get a job. You can get married. You can have kids. In fact, you can buy every house in the game. You can buy every business in the game. You could marry multiple people. Your partner could find out that you're married to multiple people and decide to divorce you. There was an example where, like, you could be like a landlord to somebody, and because you gave somebody a job or a house, they're gonna like you. Or maybe you evict somebody who didn't pay their rent, and so they'll hate you. Because they talked about how the big thing is the living population, as they described it. It honestly kind of reminds me of, if you think of Watch Dogs, there was, in Watch Dog Legion, they had this big thing where it was like, every character had like a name, and, you know, they had a backstory and everything. But then the game just didn't do anything with that. Like, Watch Dogs Legion had like a good idea, and just a bad execution. Meanwhile, this is looking to be more promising. At least if they can pull it off. If they pull it off, this will be a great execution. It's just a question of, can they pull it off? But yeah, there's the living population, which is over 1,000 unique NPCs. Each one has a name, a role, a daily routine, a personality. So you know how, like, people followed around drivers in Mario Kart World to see that, like, they drove in certain patterns and whatnot. They recognized when they were being followed and, like, drove off road. It's like you can do that in this, where you can follow an NPC and they'll, like, they'll eat breakfast, they'll go work at their job, they'll go to the bar afterwards. Of course, you can talk to every NPC, and your relationship changes with NPCs based on your reputation, because there is a morality system in this game. So, I'll be honest, I think of morality systems as a bad thing. Because even great games really struggle with a morality system. BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time. Its morality system is fucking garbage. Like, oh, should I save the little girls? Or should I murder them? But, like, oh yeah, you get more Adam for saving them. But at the end of the day, like, you get a good chunk of Adam for not killing them. Like, yeah, you get more for killing them than you do not killing them, but you still get enough for not killing them. There is no reason to do an evil run of BioShock. And then you have other games like Mass Effect or Infamous, where, like, yes, you can do an evil run, but the game's not really, like, the evil run is, like, secondary. And then stuff like Fallout, like, listen, I love New Vegas, but, like, the Legion is just so, like, comically evil that you intentionally have to roleplay as an evil person, or just be a genuine, like, evil person, or else you're not gonna side with the Legion. You know, the only people who naturally side with the Legion are, I was gonna say ICE agents, but maybe that's hitting a little too close to home. So yeah, it's really hard to make a game with a morality system, because at a certain point, it just becomes the game judging you, and usually the bad options are always written terribly. So this game, they described it as, the game doesn't judge you, but the NPCs in the game will. So, like, the example they give is that there's no black and white morality. Instead, everything is subjective. So let's say you go into town and you kick a chicken. And sure, that'll affect your morality. And some people will hate you because they like chickens and they don't want you kicking a chicken. But then there are other NPCs who will be like, you know what? I don't like chickens either. Good on you for kicking that chicken. So yeah, certain NPC, it's not a black and white morality system. It's not good or bad, but certain actions affect certain moralities. So like, people who don't like chickens will like you when you kick a chicken. Or there's another example they give where, like, if your player character is rich, there are certain NPCs who hate rich people. And so you'll go up to them and they'll be like, oh, what's up, you rich asshole? Like, they'll call you out for being rich. And that's interesting. If this game can truly pull this off, and, like, this morality system has weight to it, oh my god, that sounds so interesting. Because I love that idea of, like, yeah, the game's not judging you. And it's not even, like, a faction thing. But it's just, like, every NPC has their own morality. And everything you do, as long as it is witnessed by another player. So, like, if you kick a chicken and nobody's around to see it, did you even kick that chicken? Like, honestly? But there are tons of like, yeah, if you kick a chicken and somebody else sees it, and there's, like, the Chicken Kicker Society. I love shit like that. That seems so interesting. Is it actually going to be fun? I have no fucking idea. But so far, I do think it is interesting. Everything they're doing with this morality system, yeah, this is the kind of shit I would want. Not your Fallouts, not your Infamouses. This. Okay, Fallout has an okay morality system. You know, sometimes it does kind of work like this. Again, New Vegas is a good example. Sometimes it does just straight up work like this. And when it does, that's fine. But that's not always the case. Of course, they also talked about how your choices can change the world. So, like, in one of the first trailers we got for this game, we got to see, what is it, Richard Iwate? And he's, like, this giant character. And we see that show up again in this. But basically, it's this guy who turns himself into a giant. And then you'll do his quest line, and you'll have the choice to either save him or kill him. And if you kill him, then his corpse will, like, fall over on the village side, and now there will permanently be, like, a location that is the dead giant's corpse. That's kind of interesting. You know, like, having those permanent changes. Admittedly, I never played the second Dying Light game. I never played the third one either. I never played the second Dying Light. But I know that's kind of what the second Dying Light was trying to do, where it's like, okay, you're playing the game, and there's, like, a side mission that involves a dam. And if you break the dam, then it floods the city down below. And that just completely changes how the world and the story works. And so, yeah, shit like that is interesting if this game can pull it off. It really just depends on if the game could pull it off. I'm really hopeful they do, but you never know. You truly never know with a game like this. Again, some games promise a lot and then are just never able to deliver. And we're really hesitant of, another Cyberpunk situation. That's why GTA has been delayed so many times. And presumably, that's maybe why this game has been delayed so much. Or, we haven't seen that much of it. And if you told me in like a few months that, hey, guess what, this game's been delayed until next year, I would in no way be surprised. But yeah, at this moment, we do not have a release date. They just said autumn 2020, so, October, November, somewhere's around there. Maybe September, or, maybe September, that is possible. But I'd guess October or November. If it filled the same slot the Outer Worlds 2 did this year, I wouldn't be surprised. And then it's coming to Xbox, it's coming to PC, and it's coming to PlayStation. Every game at this showcase is coming to Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. I guess that just shows us where Xbox is, what Xbox is prioritizing, and personally, I don't really have a problem with that. As someone who primarily plays on PlayStation, I have no issue with that whatsoever. And yeah, that was the end of the showcase. Only 4 games shown. Now, I personally really like that show. If it isn't obvious by, what I've said over the past hour, I really liked this showcase. I think a lot of this stuff is very interesting. If these games truly do live up to what they're promising, which, they're game trailers. They rarely do, but anything is possible. I think everything here could be fantastic. It's just a question of will it. But yeah, I like the showcase. I don't know how everybody else feels. I'm very positive on it. I could see some people taking some issues with like, oh, well, they only showed off 4 games. And yeah, I get that. But also, like, it's an Xbox showcase. I think the most they've ever shown off in a single Xbox showcase is 6. These aren't Nintendo Directs. These aren't State of Plays. These are very smaller, targeted showcases. They're not going to show off. They was never going to show off more than 4. My one problem with it is a lack of release dates. Only Forza got a release date. That kind of sucks. I feel like if they were more... the fact that Fable might be delayed, I purely think because they didn't give it a release date. If they felt more confident, they'd give it a release date. I understand a little with Kiln that, it's this new thing. They've got to do a closed beta and whatnot. I understand that not having a specific date yet. I get that. But yeah, both Fable and Beast of Reincarnation not getting a release date, that kind of sucks. I would have liked something. And then also, this presentation was like an hour long. For 4 games, an hour-long presentation's a lot. I personally found it very entertaining, and I was invested in it. But I could understand why other people would be like, oh, wow, after 20 minutes of Fable... because they spent the longest on Fable. Or on Forza, I mean. They spent like 20 minutes on Forza. After 20 minutes on Forza, if you're like, nah, I'm good, I would get that. But overall, I'm very positive on this showcase. If I had to give it a score out of 10... again, keeping in mind that it's an Xbox Direct showcase, we knew there were only going to be 4 games. Technically, we only knew there were going to be 3, but you would have seen that 4th one coming. Keeping all that in mind, I would give this show like a 9. I had a really good time with this show. I was really impressed with this show. If everything works out, these are going to be some great... all 5 of these games are going to be great. Does it, they might not, we don't know. But if everything does work out, oh boy, am I excited. I am thoroughly excited for everything that could be. It's just a question of, will it be? And for that, we just kind of gotta wait and see. So I guess that takes us to WIBE. So I got 3 food things, standard food things, you know. I'm still playing catch up. But I think I'm caught up. I think this is literally everything, at least for now. I can't think of anything else. I mean, okay, Taco Bell brought back their nuggets this week. We've done that before. I don't need that. Why Taco Bell is doing everything a week apart, I have no idea. Why are, like, every week they've got something, which, don't get me wrong. In video games, I like stuff to be spaced out. But this is food we're talking about. I don't... No. I like variety. But we got 3 of them. We got Little Caesars, McDonald's, and Freddy's. I've been talking about Freddy's for a while now. I did finally bite the bullet and go. Not that it was, like, bad or anything, but I did finally do it. And then we got the Percy Jackson season finale. God, that fucking show, man. I love it. I really do. But it's something, alright. And finally, I've been reading a book called SuperWorld. I've read the first 2. I don't know if I'm going to read 3 or 4. But we'll talk about it. I've got no video game stuff. I've been doing Animal Crossing. That's been my main thing. I played a little bit of Stitched. I've talked about Stitched in the past. I was listening to an audiobook. I was like, I need something to do. Fuck it, let's boot up Stitched again. But that's basically it. Of course, I played, like, Balatro and a little bit of Mario Kart. I kind of want to after seeing all the Mario Kart Wonder stuff, I kind of want to play a Mario game. I know we just played 3D World, or we just played Bowser's Fury. After we finish Pikmin, we're doing 3D World. Or maybe I'll do New Super Mario Bros. U. And then we'll do 3D World. I don't know. I'm in the mood for a Mario game right now. Yeah, I got no video game things. I got no movie things either. I did not see Mercy, but I can already tell you, fuck that movie. I've heard things about that Mercy movie that sound awful. Specifically the ending. Oh my gosh, I have heard tantamount to horror stories about how bad that movie fucks things up in the end. But I didn't see it. No, the next movie I'm going to see is Markiplier's Iron Lung, which comes out next week. So basically by next week's show, we'll have seen Iron Lung. But, we'll do that then. So let's start off with Little Caesars. So Little Caesars is doing their new Detroit-style Slices-N-Stix. So Little Caesars previously had a thing called Slices-N-Stix that they definitely still have. But it's half a pizza, it's like 4 slices of a pizza, and then the other half of the pizza is breadsticks. And honestly, I really like their Slices-N-Stix. I've gotten it before, and it's basically like, hey, it's 2 slices for dinner that night, and then some breadsticks, and then 2 slices and some breadsticks for, like, lunch the next day. I honestly really like their Slices-N-Stix, and their new one is the same thing, but smaller. So it's 2 slices of Detroit-style pizza and 4 breadsticks. It's definitely less... It's unlike, the other Slices-N-Stix you can eat, like, a dinner and then a lunch the next day. This new Slices-N-Stix is definitely... I think it's a perfect lunchtime meal. It's a quick... You can eat it during lunch, and that's it. That's all you need. But for a lunchtime meal, I think it's pretty good. I like Little Caesars I like Little Caesars Detroit-style pizza. It's not the first thing I ever go get, but it's definitely, like, on my radar. Ooh. So I like that. I like the seasoning they use on the sticks, I think is good. the 2 slices of pizza. Admittedly, I feel like the one I got was more pizza than it was breadstick. Like, the breadsticks were actually kind of small, but it was not bad. You can get either cheese or pepperoni. I got pepperoni, of course. And then the other thing is the price. You know, I feel like every week I'm like, oh, look at the price of this thing. Oh my god, it's so expensive. You know, Jack in the Box is selling this thing for $13 fucking dollars. Little Caesars, again, 2 slices of pizza and 4 breadsticks, $5. And I think you can pay like another $1.50 to get a soda. That's a good deal. Genuinely, I think that's a great deal. It's like, I've seen a lot of people glazing Little Caesars this week, and you know what? They're right to do so. Little Caesars deserves that glaze. They're fucking good at what they do. Sure, are they the most high quality pizza in the world? No. But for that price, I cannot complain. I'm not gonna complain. I genuinely think this is a great deal. And this is an easy recommendation from me. Yeah, this is one of the better pizza deals I've had. You know, you could, for like the same price, you would be able to get like one medium. You could spend double the price and only get a single medium-sized pizza from like Domino's or Pizza Hut. No, this is a great deal for a decent amount of food for the price. Genuinely, really, I'd highly recommend this. So yeah, Little Caesars, all the way, great job. Definitely, again, price to piece ratio, best thing I've had this month. Next up, we got McDonald's. McDonald's is doing Hot Honey. I know some people are like, oh, Hot Honey, we should have left to last year. Like, Hot Honey was like a last year thing. But it's still around. And McDonald's has 2 things. A Hot Honey dipping sauce for nuggets. And a Hot Honey McCrispy. You know, a chicken sandwich. The nugget dipping sauce is fine. It's actually, the Hot Honey sauce, it's got like a more honey-like consistency. Like, the sauce is thicker than you'd think it would be, but I think that's a good thing. It's got strong honey flavors. It's got, you know, it's spicy. It's spicy enough for like a McDonald's sauce. Yeah, it's spicy enough. I liked it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I liked it. I've definitely had worse Hot Honey. I think it was Blaze Pizza that did a Hot Honey that fucking sucked. Blaze Pizza's Hot Honey was not good. Pizza Hut's was okay. But yeah, I've definitely had worse Hot Honey from some of these places. Oh, shit. Oh, God, we just lost like 7 guys. So yeah, the sauce was fine. The McCrispy, on the other hand, I actually really enjoyed. I'm sure I've had the McCrispy before, but this is, right, it's a chicken sandwich on a potato roll. It's got hot honey, mayo, shredded lettuce, and then jalapeno crisps, which I did not expect that, but I actually think they add a good dimension to the sandwich. They add to the flavor complexity, and I was actually really glad they were there. I feel like they really balanced things out. And yeah, the Hot Honey McCrispy, again, it's like just the sandwich is like, I don't know, probably like $7. But it was a decent chicken sandwich. I don't know. When I think of McDonald's, I think of like the McChicken, which, you know, used to be like $2 or $3. Now it's probably way more than that. But I think it's something like that. This is their more premium chicken sandwich. But for their more premium chicken sandwich, for a McDonald's premium chicken sandwich, yeah, it was better than I expected. I'll fully give it credit for that. It was better than I expected. Yeah, you know, I was curious. I don't know, McDonald's has a very complicated track record. But I had to give it a try, and it was fine. If you're into the Hot Honey thing, you probably won't be disappointed. God, we just lost almost all of our ice, guys. Yeah, if you're into the hot honey, you probably won't be disappointed by this. At least I wasn't. But yeah, conceptually, I really like hot honey. I think hot honey is a good idea, conceptually. The problem is in execution. Most people either don't go hot enough, or they don't go honey enough. Usually they don't go hot enough. Or usually there's just not enough of it. No, this was fine. This was good. This worked. And then the last thing on food is Freddy's. Freddy's, you know, smash burgers. They're known for their custard. I don't hate Freddy's by any means. I just haven't really been in the vibe to go there. But I was finally like, you know what? Fuck it. I could go for like a sweet treat, I guess. So they've got a taco burger. It's a single a single one of their smash burger patties. It's got lettuce, and it's got like their Freddy sauce, but it's specifically the jalapeno variety. And yeah, it was okay. Price-wise, it's about, I think it was like $3, $3.50. That's not terrible. I think a burger there is normally like $6 or $7. Yeah, it's around $6. And so for like basically half the price, getting like a it's definitely more of like, okay, there's is it a taco burger or is it a burger taco? I know it's called a smash burger taco, but it does remind me of a taco burger, and like they're clearly going for taco burger. I know this all seems like semantics, but as I've learned on Twitter, some people really give a shit about that. But I would say it's a taco burger. I would definitely classify it as such. It's not a lot of food, but, you know, compared to everything else, it's cheap. Again, the normal smash burger is, yeah, like $6 or $7. And so that was the first thing. The other thing was their dessert. So Freddy's has these, like, frosts, which are basically just like frozen lemonades, frozen orange juices. Personally, I think I may have tried them once, but I don't really think too much about it. But they have a hot chocolate frost. So, you know, it's got hot chocolate flavors. It's got like a marshmallow whipped cream. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'll try it. I actually went for that more than I did the taco burger. Shit. And overall, it was okay. I wouldn't really recommend it. Conceptually, I like the idea of hot chocolate flavored stuff. I like hot chocolate. I think a good hot chocolate's really good. But when people try to like not just do like a chocolate flavor, but a hot chocolate flavor, I feel like they lose a little bit in the process. It's never as good as you want it to be. And so, yeah, I feel like just getting like a chocolate frost or a chocolate shake would just be better. Not that it was terrible by any means, but like I wouldn't get it again, especially over like one of their custards. I would probably just get a custard. Yeah, that was Freddy's. It wasn't bad. It was just nothing special. So I guess that takes us to Percy Jackson. So we have the season finale of season 2 of Percy Jackson. So far, I have been really enjoying this season. I know I've said that in the past, that, you know, despite it not being book accurate, I've still been having a really good time with Percy Jackson. I've been enjoying it. I think a lot of the changes they make that, while not book accurate, are still good and interesting changes. My worry, though, was at the end of the last episode, they revealed that Annabeth has a vision that they can use the fleece to bring Thalia back to life. So if you read the books, the whole thing in the books is that they defeat Luke after he attacks the camp. They put the golden fleece on Thalia. Her shield goes back up, on her tree. And it's like, okay, all's well that ends well. And then on, like, the last day of the summer or whatever, they go to Thalia's tree, or, like, people tell, like, Percy, Annabeth, you gotta get to Thalia's tree, something has happened. And they go, and they find Thalia brought back to life. And it's like this big twist at the end of the second book. But it's a really cool twist. Like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, at the end of episode 7, them being like, oh yeah, the fleece will bring Thalia back to life, was actually kind of like disappointing, because it's undermining the twist of the book. And so I wasn't super excited. The first season had the same issue, where I was liking the changes, and then they make one change near the end of the show that I'm like, but this kind of undermines one of the big things in the book. And yeah, it's the same here. Like, it's going well. And just that one little change, it doesn't ruin everything. But it's just not as much as I want it to be. So we pick up in this episode with Percy, Grover, Annabeth, and Tyson as they head to Camp Half-Blood. Because, the camp is under attack. Clarice is up ahead. They find the horse and find out that Clarice, like, ran ahead. So they all go to investigate. I love that Sally is like, yeah, of course I'm going to come in and help. You're my son. I'm going to help. But Percy's like, hey, Mom, this was like the same road I lost you on last time. I'm not going to lose you again. Please go back to the car and stay safe. I like that moment. It makes sense. She comments on how the kids are growing up so quickly. Percy talks with his mom about how, he's worried that, like, what if the prophecy isn't about him at all? What if it's about Thalia? What if they bring Thalia back and she decides to betray them and join Luke? Because Percy brings up the idea that, well, yes, Thalia was Annabeth's friend. She was also Luke's friend. And Luke knew her a lot longer. So who's to say that Thalia wouldn't choose Luke over Annabeth? Genuinely a good question. Like, I genuinely think that is an interesting idea. What if Thalia did choose Luke? Because they were both friends. Because, like, in the book, they never really have to deal with that. I mean, I'm sure Thalia makes Luke makes the request at some point. But it's never really confronted as an issue. Not in any way different than, like, the whole, oh, well, Thalia is going to be the first one to turn 16 or whatever. No, I like that whole conversation. They roll into camp. Percy and Annabeth and Grover get captured for being traitors. At some point, Tantalus dies. He gets hit with a fireball and just explodes. It's very anticlimactic. I was trying to think how he dies in the book, and genuinely, I don't remember. I think he just gets sent back to, like, hell. I don't remember. I don't remember what happens with Thanatos in the book, or with Tantalus in the book. But yeah, in this one, he gets the ability to eat food again. Like, the gods break his curse just for him to immediately die. But yeah, they're taken in as a traitor. Percy, they go to Dionysus, and Dionysus is like, oh, you kids, you always want me to intervene. You need to solve your own problems. And Percy's like, you know what? Sure, I will. And so he rallies the camp to his side to go fight against Luke and the Lystragonians and the other campers who, turned evil. I do like that, because this is Percy, taking on his leadership role. As, son of Poseidon, one of the leaders of the camp. It really, again, we've come a long way from the whiny Percy Jackson of season 1. I definitely feel like, yeah, he's taking up more of his leadership role. that, you know, he grows into, and we see him growing into it in this one. Meanwhile, Clarice is, you know, trying to bring the fleece. She meets up with Chris, you know, Chris Rodriguez. I think his name's Rodriguez. And yep, he's still a traitor. Because in the books, Chris isn't introduced until, like, book 4, but he's introduced as a traitor. So I do like seeing him in here, and yep, he's a traitor, he betrays them, and in theory he gets away. He'll come back later, probably. I don't know, it depends on what they're changing, but presumably he'll come back later. After that, of course, eventually there's this big fight scene, you know, Luke fights Percy one-on-one again. All the demigods fight the other evil demigods and some of the monsters. The one girl who's like Luke's second in command, the daughter of Apollo, who's, you know, she's been like the secondary antagonist. You know, she hates Annabeth. She tries to destroy the tree, but Clarice is able to like javelin it. Like she puts the fleece on a javelin, launches it at the tree, and with that it connects. And Thalia bursts out of the tree, and boom, does this giant lightning strike. And the strike, all the monsters are defeated. Luke is defeated. Of course, he still escapes, but Percy is also burned. So Percy gets knocked out. We get this whole dream sequence where Percy, in a dream, he gets to talk to his father. He gets to talk to Tyson. And this is where Tyson is like, oh yeah, Tyson's gonna go work in his dad's forge. And I do like the line where Tyson tells Percy that he prayed to the gods for a friend, but was instead sent a brother. I do like that line. I do wish we had gotten a little more of a goodbye between Percy and Tyson. Like, I really do. I like all the changes they made to Tyson this season. I think Tyson is great in this show. And I would have just liked a little bit more wrapped up. Just a little, like, let them hug or something. Come on, show. But other than that, I think it's good. Fuck it, let's do it. Let's go fight the water wraith, shall we? Or if I play this fast enough, we'll just never see it until the final level. I'm gonna aim for that. I'm gonna try to beat the submerged castle without encountering the water wraith until level 5. Or I mean the engulfed castle. You know what I mean. I'm gonna try. So after that, you know, Percy, you know, after he learns that Tyson's going, he wakes up, Annabeth and Grover are there. He goes to the big house. He finds out that, Chiron is back. Clarice is now in charge of the camp's defenses. Which, again, I like all the changes they made to Clarice this season. They made her a more likable character, because she is, you know, because this was her quest. And actually having, you know, it center more around her, give her more depth, I do think is a good change. But after that, they talk to Chiron, where he tells them the truth. That, you know, he's related to Kronos, and that's why he was kicked out. But he doesn't exactly tell them the great prophecy, but instead he tells them what happened the night Thalia died. That the night it happened, Zeus swore him to secrecy, but now he's going to tell them the truth. Specifically, Thalia was not killed by the... Oh, fuck, what are they called? Not Gorgons. Oh, fuck. The Furies. Right? Because as far as Annabeth knew, Thalia was killed by the Furies. But Chiron reveals that no, she wasn't killed by the Furies. Instead, the Furies had a conversation with her, and then they were killed by Zeus. And the conversation they had with Thalia was they told her the great prophecy. And so when Zeus comes down to talk to Thalia, she tells him, like, no, I only came to camp to, you know, save Annabeth. Now that I know the truth, I'm gonna leave. I refuse to be your weapon. she basically tells Zeus off, and as punishment, Zeus turns her into a tree. So that's how they change the twist. That instead of her dying and becoming a tree, and the twist being her coming back to life, the twist is instead that she didn't die at all. That Zeus turned her into a tree because she refused to fulfill the prophecy for Zeus. I do find that very interesting. That definitely makes me rethink the entire thing. But is it a good twist? I don't know. Here's the thing. I feel like a lot of the changes this show makes is that, you know, normally when you make a show that's adapting a book, you take in the assumption that, well, yes, you're making it for fans of the book. You also have to make it for people who have never read the book before. But the Percy Jackson show, well, yes, if you have never read the books, you can watch the show perfectly fine. It's made in a way that if you've read the book, they change all of the twists because you already know how it works out in the book. You already know that Thalia is going to come back, so that's not the twist anymore. Instead, they change the twist to be that, oh, Thalia, you know, wasn't going to side with Zeus. That, you know, she might side with Luke now. That's instead the big twist. That she never died. Instead, Zeus turned her into a tree. And, like, yeah, it's a twist. But is it the twist I wanted? Because the original book's twist was fine. And for people who hadn't read the books, if the show had done the same twist, it would have also worked fine. But for people who have, now they're changing it so that people who do know the books will be, like, surprised again. But is that a better twist? And I don't really think it is. So yeah, this is the one change this season where I'm like, no, I don't like this. Everything else I think is good, and they still might pull it off in the end. To be fair, the one thing I didn't like in Season 1 was never brought up in Season 2. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, there is still time to tell. I mean, I could honestly, now that Thalia is back in the picture, I could see them bringing back up the Season 1 thing and maybe actually doing something with it. But yeah, yes, this potentially does make the next season more interesting, because in Book 3, Thalia and Percy kind of have to work together, even though they kind of hate each other. It's complicated. It's that whole thing where, like, they're so similar that they struggle to work together because of how similar they are. So I'd be curious, you know, I wonder how this change is going to affect the next season, obviously. Because, you know, they describe it as, like, Thalia is Percy's nightmare. And yeah, I'd be really curious to see what they're going to do with that. Now, we get two post-credit scenes. The first one is Season 3 confirmed. They're at the school dance. You know, it's Percy, it's Annabeth. They're dancing together. I don't remember what song is playing. I don't think it's Space Odyssey, but, you know, it's something like that. And so they did confirm, yes, Season 3 is coming, and it will be later this year. So probably, again, in, like, December, we are getting Season 3. I'm happy they're at least... Again, Season 2's ratings have not been that good, but I'm excited for... At least we're getting Season 3. Season 3 is my personal favorite one. Book 3 is my favorite one. I'm glad we're getting Season 3, and I'm glad that, you know, presumably they're already, you know, it's already been shot, or they're currently shooting it, or whatever the fuck's going on. I'm happy we're getting Season 3. I hope we don't have to wait another few years for 4 and 5. If they even renew it for 4 and 5, we'll have to see, because the show's fucking expensive. But either way, I'm glad we're getting Season 3. I like that epilogue, because I didn't know. I did not know the show had been renewed for a 3rd season, so finding that out was a good thing. And then we get a second epilogue with Cersei, where we find out Cersei is still around, You know, the people haven't abandoned her island, but instead she's made like special courses for, she's made a special like advanced course specifically to deal with Percy and Annabeth, who she has also made statues of. You know, as two more people have escaped, giving all those who are still there hope. Is this something that's going to come back later? This is the most weird random epilogue. I know, see, in the books, I think Cersei, like, dies or something. Like, she gets defeated one way or another. You know, Blackbeard, like, ransacks her island, and everybody has to escape. Is Cersei gonna come up back in this again? I wouldn't think so, but it's weird that they just randomly give her an epilogue scene. Like, I don't know why they did that, but they did it. And yeah, that's where the season ends. Overall, I did enjoy the season. Again, I feel it's not accurate to the books at all. They make changes. I think most of the changes are fine. I have very few issues with most of the changes. Some of them I really like. I like what they do with Tyson. I like what they do with Clarice. I found all the Cersei stuff really interesting. But it's not accurate to the book. Some people will never forgive it for that. Personally, it's not... I don't know, because on one hand, it's like, yes, I would have loved to have just seen the book done. You know, make some... There is no such thing as a perfect adaptation. To do an adaptation, you have to make changes. So inevitably, even if they had perfectly adapted the book, they would have had to have made some changes. But they made a lot of changes, and I still enjoy it, but it's got issues, man. It has issues. But I'm excited for more of it. Like, the writing is still good. The characters are still interesting. They're doing enough right that I'm not, like, super worried. And I'm down for season 4. Season 3, you know, Artemis, Apollo, everything that's going on there. It just depends on what they do. And how they do it. So yeah, that's Percy Jackson. Season 3 later this year. Fuck yeah. I did not always expect it. I'm so used to all these shows taking like years between seasons that if they had waited another year, like if we weren't getting the next season until 27, like December 27, I wouldn't be surprised. But if they keep, renewing the show, give us seasons 4 and 5, greenlight those as soon as possible so that way they can start the writing, start the shooting, because it's the CGI that takes forever. Yeah. Alright, so that takes us to books. So, last week we talked about So Not a Hero, which was a book series about, a Harley Quinn-style figure who, tries to be a hero, tries to make her way as a hero. From there, after I finished those 2 books, on Audible, I got recommended a book called SuperWorld. Same scenario as like the So Not a Hero, I got the first one for free, and then the second one I got with a credit. Same thing here. First one was free with my Audible subscription, second one I got on a credit. And I guess let's talk about the first one first. So this is an alternate history book, where in the 1960s, I want to say 63, but that may not entirely be right. But basically in the 1960s, the entire Earth got surrounded by, they call it like the Aurora Australis or something like that. This basically golden light surrounds the entire Earth. And, everyone's like, oh, it's beautiful. And then they all fall into a coma. There's 3 missing days. And then after those 3 missing days, everybody wakes up, but now they have superpowers. So for the next year, now that everyone has superpowers, the world descends into chaos. Everything goes into chaos. They literally call it the Year of Chaos. But eventually, you know, during the Year of Chaos, near the end, it gave rise to superheroes who went in, they reclaimed the world, and put everything back in order, ending the Year of Chaos. The Year of Chaos was, I want to say the Year of Chaos is like 67 or something like that. I don't entirely, or it lasts until like 67. I don't know, because the only reason I say 63 is because I want to say they specifically mentioned the president at the time was JFK. So I think it's 63. But so out of the Year of Chaos, you get the Legion of Superheroes, led by Captain Dawn, who, you know, has the power of 500 suns or whatever, and his wife, the White Queen, who has ice powers. And they're like the two predominant superheroes. We then get some history over the next few years. You know, Captain Dawn tears down the Berlin Wall in the 70s. He ends, you know, regimes in Cuba. Basically, you know, it's this whole alternate history where, you know, we get to learn about Captain Dawn and the Legion of Superheroes saving the world. What else? Eventually, the White Queen, I want to say she dies in like a car accident or something like that. But, you know, Captain Dawn continues on. He becomes this renowned superhero. I mean, he already was. But after his wife dies, he forms like a superhero academy where, you know, they can now train the next generation until, you know, the bad thing happens. So I'll get the bad thing in a second. So from there, we cut to not the modern day. The book takes place either in the year 2000 or the year 2001. I want to say they mention the really bad thing happens in the year 1990. So I'm pretty sure in the second book, it's mentioned that it's the 10-year anniversary of the really bad thing. That I admittedly don't remember what they call the really bad thing. I guess the Black Death. I mean, sure, let's call it that. But, you know, the really bad thing happened in 1990. So the book takes place in 2000, 2001. It is, and the only reason I suspect 2000 is, again, the 10-year thing. But also they specifically mention that Al Gore is president. So the main character, Matt, is a clairvoyant. So he can predict the future. And the first thing he predicted was that Al Gore was going to win the presidency. So that's what makes me think, again, 2000, 2001-ish, somewhere's around there, did 9/11 happen in this universe? I genuinely, you know that Turning Red clip from Mr. Enter, where he's like, oh, they should be talking about 9/11. I was genuinely watching this and being like, did 9/11 happen? I don't know. I don't know if 9/11 happened in this universe. I mean, Bush was never president. In fact, you know who, so in 1990, Bush Sr., Bush Sr. is not the president. Instead, the president in 1990 is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He's the president in 1990 in this book. So do with that whatever you will. It's very much a throwaway. Like, there's a letter from the president, and it ends with President Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it never gets mentioned again, by the way. But yeah, so in this, we meet Matt, who's a clairvoyant. However, Matt's not actually a clairvoyant. You know those things where, like, people use, like, basic questions and vague responses to pretend like they're a psychic? That they can read people's minds or they can talk to the dead. Basically, Matt does that, but to trick people into thinking he can see the future. So he gives, there's an example in book 1 where they're, like, testing his clairvoyance powers. And it's this woman, and he's, like, researched her, so he knows, like, this woman has a daughter. You know, the daughter is married. He knows that the woman's, like, husband passed away. And using all this basic knowledge, he, like, gives her this whole prophecy that, like, hey, your daughter may or may not be pregnant. You know, you have to look forward to the color white. Is the color white important to you? Again, it's all these vague platitudes. But because it might have some sort of connection to people, they assume that, oh yeah, this is talking about this. Oh, they're probably talking about my future. I don't know. There's definitely a term for it of people pretending to be like fake psychics. I know there's a whole South Park episode about it. The biggest douche in the universe. It's basically that same idea. But yeah, in this world, clairvoyancy is like such a rare power that Matt just pretending to have it and making all these vague platitudes, everybody just believes him. So he's our main character. Everyone has a power but him. That he's supposed to have his power by his 18th birthday. The book opens on his 18th birthday, after a lot of the, like, basic information about the world. And nope, he doesn't get it. From there, we meet our second protagonist, Jane. And everybody in this world fucking hates Jane. Like, the book starts off where she gets, like, attacked. And even though she's just defending herself, she gets expelled from school. She has a very bad relationship with her father, who's an alcoholic, who can't hold down a job, mostly because of her. And so this opening chapter is all about her getting kicked out of school and now having to go to the same school as Matt. And then the other important thing about Jane is she's got this giant E on her cheek. And so for the entire time, I'm like, okay, you're reading this chapter about Jane. What the fuck happened? Why does she have this E on her cheek? Why does everyone hate her? They call her a parasite. Well, this is where the very bad thing happens. And that's the submerged castle cleared without seeing the water wraith once. I mean, we'll have to fight it as the final boss here, but we made it through all 4 floors without ever seeing him. We did all 4 floors in under 5 minutes. Nice. We lost a lot of Pikmin along the way. I think we went in with, 60? And we're now down to, 24, 29. So we find out with Jane. And again, this is the flashback with the Martin Luther King thing. That in the year 1990, there was this supervillain known as Black Death. And he had the power of empathy. Or he's an empath. That doesn't mean, he can, share emotions. An empath has the ability to steal people's powers. Or copy them. So basically, the Black Death was a serial killer. He's a Nazi as well. Or at least his father was a Nazi. He was a Nazi. He grew up in the 1930s in Germany. Eventually, he fled to Argentina. Shit happens. And the Black Death has the power where if he gets somebody else's blood, he can steal their powers. And so he went on the serial killing spree, stealing hundreds of people's powers, until eventually he was outed by the Legion of Superheroes, where he then proceeded to kill everybody in the Legion of Superheroes until he was eventually stopped by Captain Dawn. And Captain Dawn defeated him, but as a final act, the Black Death pulled a Nitro. If you've ever read Marvel Comics, specifically Civil War, there's a villain called Nitro who has the ability to blow himself up. And using that ability, he kicks off Civil War in the comics. And this, the Black Death has a similar ability. But when he blows up, when Nitro blew up in Marvel Comics, he killed 200 people. I keep wanting to call him Red Death. When Black Death blew up, he kills 500 million people. He destroys the entire continent of Africa, killing, 500 million people. So after Red Death was defeated by Captain Dawn, the governments of the world passed this new law that basically anybody else with empathy powers, anyone else who's an empath, must now have the letter E marked on their cheek to alert everyone else that they're an empath. And if they're caught stealing anybody else's powers without direct consent, they are sentenced to 20 years in prison or the death sentence or something crazy. They're super racist power cyst, whatever. They hate people with empathy powers. And so that's why they call Jane a parasite. That's why they hate her. Her dad struggles to keep a job because, you know, once they find out his kid's an empath, they decide to hate him as well. Jane doesn't have, you know, they explain that there's different, Jane explains that there's different types of empaths. There's those who get it by touch, there's those who can copy within proximity, and those who can copy with blood. So she copies with touch, and as a result, the max power she could steal, and not even steal, she just copies them, are like 4 or 5. So it's not like she could steal everyone's powers. If she did copy your powers, you would know. But yeah, everyone hates her because of it. They try to kill her. She's mostly alone. She works out a lot, right? She's got, as a result, over the years, she's picked up the powers of fire, ice, and electricity. And yeah, she's angry at the world. She's angry at everybody. She actually likes fighting like that. Because, you know, once people attack her, she is free to fight back. So she actually, like, looks forward to people fighting her. And yeah, I will say, both Matt and Jane in this book are very likable characters. Matt is kind of a sleazebag. Like, yeah, admittedly, he's worried about his family. Like, the whole reason he's lying about having powers is that he doesn't want anybody else to know that he doesn't, because else he worries that the government's gonna, like, kidnap him and dissect his family. So he's, like, doing it to protect them. But he, like, generally is, like, helping people. Like, he's giving them, you know, sure, he's lying about seeing the future, but he's giving them advice to, like, actually help them. Matt is very sympathetic. He's very likable, but kind of in, like, a sleazy way. I really like Matt. I think he's an enjoyable protagonist. He makes a lot of friends easily. Meanwhile, Jane, you very much empathize with. You know, you see what a shitty situation she's put in, and you feel bad for her, but you also want her to succeed, because that's her dream, is to be a hero. She wants to be a hero more than anything in the world, and despite having this E on her face, despite everyone hating her, she wants to be a hero, join the Legion of Heroes, whole thing. She's very likable as well. I really like Jane. She has some very sympathetic moments. She's, you know, Matt, because early on, Matt realizes that, oh, he doesn't have powers, so Jane couldn't steal his powers. Even though, again, she can't steal powers, everyone's racist towards her. Whatever, superhero is towards her. I don't know, what term do the X-Men use? Mutist? Whatever it is. Right, Matt isn't scared of Jane, because he has no powers to take. Why would he be scared of her? So instead, the two actually get along really well. At first, he starts sitting with her at lunch, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And everyone else at school is like, "What are you doing?" But eventually, they realize, like, hey, wait, Matt has the ability to see the future. And if he sees in the future that Jane isn't going to hurt him, and isn't going to hurt any of us, then maybe we shouldn't be afraid of Jane. And, like, over time, more people start sitting with them, specifically Matt's other friends who really don't matter. But yeah, Matt's actually, like, breaking down walls. Of course, once he sees Jane get into a fight, he realizes, like, how strong she is, and immediately he's like, oh, wait, she could kill me at any moment. Like, she's a really good fighter. She beats up, like, 4 people at once. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Just because she can't steal my powers doesn't mean she hasn't taken other people's powers and could, like, kill me in a heartbeat. But yeah, eventually, these guys from Uganda, because, you know, Uganda blew up when they blew up Africa, they try to kill Jane, but right before they can fight him, Matt steps in. He knows all the guys, and he's like, oh, like, they're an angry mob, and he, like, humanizes with them, and is like, oh, yeah, hey, I know your sister. You know, how's she doing with her, I want to say it was anorexia or something. And she eventually convinces the Ugandan guys that, like, hey, you guys better back off. Trust me, I can see the future. I know how this ends. This isn't going to end well for you. And sure enough, it works. So again, Jane would have easily kicked all their asses. But he helps Jane out. And then afterwards, Jane touches him and realizes he doesn't have a power. Matt freaks out, is like, oh, fuck. Oh no, she's gonna turn me into the government. I'm so screwed. And he like tries to Matt very much is like a planner. So he tries to like think ahead, like, oh, well, they're not gonna believe her over me. You know, I'm a clairvoyant. Meanwhile, she's a marked one. You know, she's an empath. They're never gonna believe anything she says. And then when he eventually talks to Jane, because he spends like the entire weekend festering, and he eventually talks to Jane, and Jane's like, why would I rat you out to the government? The government put this mark on my face. I hate the government. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so the two become friends, they get closer together, and then one day at school, there's the special assembly where someone from the League of Heroes has shown up because they're going to invite a student at the school to join the League of Heroes. And of course, Matt is like, oh, it's Jane. You know, Jane wants to be in the League of Heroes. They clearly recognize her talent and are going to let her join. Because there's like a whole level system, and she's like a level 12, which to be in the League of Heroes, you need to be at least like an 11 or something. So he thinks they're going to invite her. Of course, they invite him as, you know, someone who can see the future. They want him to join, obviously. And Matt's like, oh, fuck. Oh, no. Like, his whole plan is blown up in his face. But he can't tell anybody. He tries to turn down the League of Heroes, and they're like, why would you ever turn us down? So he eventually calls them out, and is like, I would never join a league that wouldn't accept someone like Jane. Like, Jane is way more worthy than I am. You guys are all racist towards her. So if you won't take Jane, then you can't have me either. Thinking that, oh, you know, they hate empaths, you know. Again, an empath killed everyone in the Legion of Heroes except for Captain Dawn. Obviously, they'll hate Jane. And no, their desire to get Matt to join them outweighs their hatred of Jane. So in the end, they both get to join. And Matt just goes along with it. And then once he gets to school, he has the obvious realization, like, wait, I can just try to get expelled. And again, Matt is a very sympathetic character. I really like him and his whole quest to get expelled. Like, you know, he tries ditching classes. He throws a party. And well, yes, the part, you know, it goes against administration. At the end of the day, it brings the students closer together. At one point, he asked, like, this woman with telepathy. She can like mental manipulation. She calls out Jane and like starts revealing all of Jane's deepest, darkest secrets. So Matt comes in to defend her. And that's a really good scene of her. Like, even though Matt has no powers, his mental fortitude is so strong that he's able to defeat one of the strongest mind readers in the country. And then after he does that, he's like, oh yeah, I was only able to do it because I cheated, because I saw the future and knew that you were going to call Jane out and all this. So like, he both defeats her, but also like covers for his credibility. But that makes everybody like Matt. Like, even though he cheated, all like the popular kids were like, that's really cool that you did that. Welcome to the team. He also makes he makes friends with like a super genius named Ed, and they play like Counter-Strike and Smash Melee together. There's a bunch of other characters. It's not like a huge cast or anything. And again, some of them, like when they're picking on Jane, it's like, okay, go fuck yourself. But then, you know, over time they realize like, oh, Jane's not a terrible person, and they get, you know, they grow more to like her. And yeah, there's just a bunch of things that happen, like their first days at school. Like, Matt's first day at school is him meeting this weird guy who, like, can astral project and just, like, basically just, like, he disappears because he goes and astral projects somewhere else. Meanwhile, Jane's first day is just miserable. Like, she's getting beaten up in all of her classes. She almost gets murdered at one point. Like, she's really struggling with her class. Meanwhile, Matt's just, like, playing Counter-Strike. Eventually, again, they throw a party. A bunch of things happen. And then, I guess, again, I've been going spoilers, so I'm going to spoil both the first and the second book. Eventually, they get called on a mission. That we find out that, well, yes, clairvoyants are rare. The Legion has actually been trying to recruit clairvoyants up to this point, but every clairvoyant they've met, the second they go to confront them, has killed themselves. There's a lot of suicide in this book. There's a lot of death as well in the second one, but there's a lot of suicide in both these books. And so all the clairvoyants have killed themselves except for Matt. And so they send Matt in, like, a team of, like, I think Sam the strong man, the telepath, there's a second telepath named Will. And then there's a teleporter named, like, Walt. And I constantly kept getting them confused. But it kind of didn't matter because they're dating each other. Which that was a cute thing to see once like Jane finally picks up on, like, oh wait, two guys can date each other? What? But yeah, so they go on this mission to find this one this one clairvoyant who can see the future. And it ends up with Matt sits down and, like, he ends up getting, like, lured into a trap where he has a one-on-one conversation with her. And this is the climax of the first book. And she goes on this whole thing about how clairvoyants aren't actually real. That every clairvoyant is just lying about their powers. But instead, there's this kid who is, like, a friend. And so, up until this point, multiple times in the book, Matt kept seeing this, like, blue-eyed kid who kept, like, giving him, like, advice. And, like, it was basically this kid can see the future. And he was warning about, like, death. Because the academy is called, like, Morning Star. So it was, like, death at Morning Star. And I was waiting for that to be like, oh, Morning Star, Lucifer Morning Star. I was waiting for that to become something. And, like, it kind of does, but it also kind of doesn't. But yeah, so eventually, he talks to this woman, and this woman's like, oh yeah, the kid is my friend, he's not a god, but he wants to help us, and he set up everything just for this exact moment, for you and I to meet. Why? Honestly, in the second Matrix movie, where the architect gives this whole speech, but it kind of makes no fucking sense? That's what this speech felt like with this clairvoyant woman. It's like, yeah, she's saying something, but it makes no fucking sense and doesn't really help out the plot a lot. Like, I was really enjoying the book up to this point, but I think the ending of book 1 fucking sucks. If you only read book 1 and get to that ending with the speech that makes no sense, you are not going to have a good time. The ending of book 1 is very much a mid-season finale. Like, I know it's the book 1 finale, but it's not the book 1 finale. It very much is supposed to be, like, the mid-season finale. And it kind of sucks for that. Because, I feel like she could have either explained a little bit more, or have been a little less vague. But it's all just kind of messy, and I really don't like how it ends. That was my one problem with the book. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed a lot of stuff that happened. But the way book 1 ends with this conversation is just so fucking messy. And it's really annoying. Because it's just so poorly explained. Like, yes, she's hinting at, like, oh, there's these bigger forces at work. And, like, yes, like, the whole thing with me saying, oh, she's talking about this blue-eyed kid, she doesn't actually say that. That's only me interpreting that it's a blue-eyed kid. That's me saying that, having read both books. At the time, she makes no fucking sense. There's also this thing with this old man, like, dying in a bed, that also gets explained in the second book, but It's really not explained that well in the first one. It's kind of messy, and even after reading the second book, I don't know what this blue-eyed kid is. Like, is he... For a second, I was like, oh, is he Captain Dawn? Like, is this like a young version of Captain Dawn or something like that? And, like, it's definitely time travel. Like, we know for sure this kid has, like, time travel powers. But it's just... I think it is so poorly explained. Everything with this kid is kind of a mess. Not because it has to be, just because they do such a bad job at explaining it. Like, clearly he has some sort of connection to the Aurora, and, you know, again, he's got time travel powers, but it's just so messy, man. And I was not having a good time with it. But, you know, book one, even though I didn't like the ending, the rest of it was strong enough that I was like, yeah, I'll do book two. So book two opens up, I want to... If the first... I don't remember when the first book started. They're all... By the way, they say superhero school, like it's Morningstar. It's a superhero college. I think they're all 18, if not older. Like, some of the older students are, you know, a little older than that. But yeah, the second book, it's Thanksgiving. Or it's the time leading up to Thanksgiving. And we get... I can't even remember how the book opens. But eventually, we get... Again, full spoilers for the second book. We get to see Thanksgiving. Matt goes home to his family. And he invites Jane to go with him. And at first, everything seems like it's going okay. Until they reveal that they invited Jane's father. And so when they're doing like the, hey, it's Thanksgiving, let's go around and say what we're thankful for, Jane's father goes on this giant rant about how much he fucking hates his daughter. And it just completely kills the mood. And then so the dad runs off, Jane runs off, Matt goes off to talk to Jane, but Jane's like, fuck you and your fake sympathy. She storms off. Matt feels like a piece of shit. I do not... So after, right, Jane tells Matt off, even though he's like the one person who cares for her. And later on, like, Walt or Will, one of the two, calls her out and is like, you should apologize to him. And she never does. By the time the book ends, like, she says she's going to, and then she chickens out and instead just helps him while he's drunk. But she never apologizes. She never apologizes, because, like, she really wants to. Like, genuinely, she feels bad for calling him out and, like, is like, no, I was wrong to do that. And she never apologizes. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I did definitely notice it at the time. Ah, shit. Get back here, OG. But yeah, so we get Thanksgiving. Matt stays home for Christmas. Meanwhile, Captain Dawn... So Captain Dawn shows up a few times in the book. In the first one, it's mostly he talks to Jane. Like, Jane breaks, like, every bone in her body. And while she's sitting in the recovery bay, Captain Dawn shows up and is like, yes, I know they're hard on you, but I see the strength inside of you. I see that you're capable of great things. You know, you just got to keep pushing through. They have another conversation later on. Jane definitely has a crush on Captain Dawn. Because for the most part, Matt and Jane have, like, no romantic relationship with, like, the exception of, like, the very end. But yeah, eventually, we get to New Year's, in which, Matt's friend Ed asks out this girl, and she turns him down. And then later on that night, Ed kills himself. And the girl, of course, blames herself. She's like a speedster. I want to say her name's like Genevieve or something. And so she blames herself and becomes a shut-in. Meanwhile, Matt's like, no, there's no way Ed would kill himself. Something happened here. There's something up. I just gotta figure out what. And so he tries to figure it out. Eventually he figures out that he was he was like mind controlled into killing himself. There's this whole thing where he then realizes what Ed was looking into, and that is Captain Dawn. And they find out that everyone who knew Captain Dawn has died in the past 10 years. His friends, his family, everyone from the town he grew up in. And that's when they find out Captain Dawn isn't Captain Dawn. That instead, Captain Dawn didn't actually defeat the Black Death. The Black Death killed Captain Dawn and used his, hundreds of superpowers to shapeshift into Captain Dawn and has been pretending to be him. I saw that twist coming from like 2 hours into book 1. That was the twist I predicted immediately. Like, there's a lot of stuff they established where, like, oh, there's no more League of Superheroes. Oh, the Academy was shut down for 5 years. Captain Dodd being sympathetic towards Jane. I was like, he's not Captain Dawn. That's the villain. I fucking called that shit so early on. But yeah, you eventually get this big fight scene. Everybody except for Matt and Jane die, fighting the Black Death. But eventually Jane goes back in time, gets Captain Dodd's powers, and saves the world. And honestly, a really satisfying ending to the book. Okay, I think I'm done with Pikmin. Yeah, that's where the book ends. And I honestly thought it was a very satisfying ending. Like, because Matt, Jane is now Lady Dawn, having taken back the powers. And I was like, oh yeah, she gets her dream. Because she goes back and she meets Captain Dawn in like the 80s and realizes that he never wanted to be a superhero. That for as, heroic as he always sounded, it was actually like an Ant-Man and the Wasp thing where, Janet Van Dyne always wanted to be a hero and Hank was just kind of there supporting his wife. It's the same thing here. The White Queen wanted to be a hero and Captain Dawn just went along with it because he loves her. And so that's where the book ends with, their new League of Heroes. Jane is now the new Lady Dawn. Matt's like their secretary. Jane and Matt kiss, which I feel like kind of comes out of nowheres. I didn't really need a romantic relationship with them. But also every other character in the book dies. Fucking Sam, the strongman, dies. Celeste, who is like a shapeshifter, dies. The only characters who live are Will and Walt, who are, the telepath and the teleporter and the telepath. Giselle, at one point they do an X-Men, like the X-Men Apocalypse where he blows up the school and Quicksilver saves everybody. They do that, where Giselle, the speedster, saves everybody right before a bomb blows up Morningstar, the superhero college. So we get that moment, but she manages to survive. And then the one other telepathy girl who bullies Jane was like off doing something else, so she lives. And that's it. There's a guy named Winter who's like the head teacher. I don't know if he dies or not, but everybody else definitely does. And yeah, that kind of sucks, seeing all the characters we like die. I don't know where you go from there. But I feel like the book ended in a really good place. I like earlier on in the book, Ed, the super genius, realizes that, like, hey, if they were able to map the human genome, maybe they could make a cure for superheroes to, like, disable their powers. So when Black Death steals Matt's DNA, because as far as Matt knows, as far as Black Death knows, Matt is a clairvoyant, and that's the one power he doesn't have. That's why all those people killed themselves, and so that Black Death couldn't get that power. But he takes Matt's blood to get his power. But I really like that. No, it starts turning him into the human. It like Matt's human blood without superpowers makes Black Death weaker, and that's how Jane is able to defeat him. I really liked that. But yeah, in the end, even though, tons of people die, the entire city of Detroit's destroyed, Chicago also gets pretty fucked up. The book ends with them killing Black Death. Jane's now leading the Legion of Superheroes. They're rebuilding Morningstar. And then it ends with this, like, hey, we see the blue-eyed kid again, and he's like, oh, they defeated this threat, but there are much bigger threats to come. Yeah, but I kind of feel like I'm kind of satisfied where that book ended. I know there are 2 more books in the series, but I really don't feel like I need to read them. Like, I am satisfied. Like, Black Death is, like, the big threat. And sure, there's, like, the mystery of what is the Aurora and everything. And there's probably, like, an evil Aurora or something like that. But I just don't, like, again, they just defeated the guy who killed 500 million people. They just defeated their, you know, Doctor Doom, their Thanos, their deaths. Like, I'm sure they want to bring in, like, an Anti-Monitor or a Darkseid or something like that. But I am perfectly satisfied where this book ends. This book's only, like, the first and second one came out in, like, 2021, 2022. Third one is 23. Fourth one is, like, 24, 25. Like, these are, like, unlike the last set of superhero books where it was like, oh, yeah, that was, like, 2018. No, these are more recent. There might be a 5th one coming out soon. I don't know, let me Google it. SuperWorld Book 5. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, super. Yeah, okay. I don't know. There might be another one coming. I just see, yeah, up to book 4, and I don't see anything past that. Yeah, SuperWorld, an alternate reality fantasy by Benjamin Keyworth. Okay, it says book 4 of 4. I don't know. I don't know if that's, like, limiting. When did this come out? Come on, tell me. Came out in July of last year. So I could see them making another one. But I honestly don't need another one. Like, I was perfectly happy with how book 2 ended. So, I don't know. I read both of these books in, like, a week. I blazed through these. Again, the main characters are just a lot more likable, a lot more interesting than the last superhero books. And so, yeah, I just burned through these. You know, it's Dungeon Crawler Carl all over again. Admittedly, these are a lot shorter than that. But yeah, I might check out book 3 and 4, but I'm not rushing to do so. And then I know Bounce House Protocol comes out like next month, so maybe I'll just wait for that. I don't know, but that's where we're going to end off for tonight. Oh, God, I knew we were going to go for 4 hours. I fucking knew it. So we will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, for the Super Mario movie Direct. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is revealing another trailer tomorrow, early in the morning. So we're going to come in, we'll check it out. Hopefully it'll be great. We'll see. We'll see. Someone did point out that this is our first appearance of Fire Mario. That Fire Mario does not appear in the first movie. But on the preview image, we see it. I don't know. I'm interested. You know what new characters we see. And then after we do that, we'll do Animal Crossing. We'll do Turnips. And then that's the rest of the week. So yeah, with that, I think that's where I'm going to end off. So I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time. Peace.